What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Red Chill, your one-stop shop for everything movies, TV, and anything in between. I'm your host, Root. With me, the Qui-Gon to my Obi-Wan, aka my co-host, Shabzy. What's good, my
What's
man?
up? What up? What up? What up?
What up? What up? Welcome. And as always, we would appreciate it if you can leave a comment, like, subscribe, let us know how we're doing. We're trying to grow this channel. We appreciate any type of help. In the meantime, this is Andor, recapped and reviewed. Episode 9, Nobody's Listening, released on November 2nd, directed by Toby Haynes once again, and written by Beau Willimon. Before we get into our frame by frame, scene by scene breakdown and give our thoughts on the episode, full of spoilers and everything, as always, Shabs, let's first give him our spoiler free overall thoughts of the episode. What did you think?
I think this episode was great. I think the pacing was really good. Every scene had energy in it. Every scene had like a specific purpose, which was some of my issues with the previous episode. It seemed to meander a little bit, and it just seemed to have extra stuff that we didn't need, which is what was not in there. And there was a lot less wasting time. And ironically enough, those were some of the themes that were present in this week's episode, and it was integrated into the dialogue. There was a lot of, which I thought was self-referential, I think, reactions to previous episode. But yeah, overall, I was really, really, really happy with this.
Nice. Same. I had a really good time with it. It seems like we're in the middle of the 3-episode arc, and as we were saying,
I was gonna ask that.
I guess 7 was a little bit of a detour, but a
Yes.
little bit of like, okay, just like let's kickstart the next arc real quick at the end, so you don't feel completely like you don't know where it's going. But it seems like this is another 3-episode arc. We're going to get what I wanted next episode, which would be
Yes.
a prison break, and yeah, it seems like the finale is going to be a 2-episode finale, like we were talking about. It seems like the director of episode 7 is coming back, which is kind of cool. That everybody's getting like the same amount of episodes. It's kind of really nicely
Right.
balanced and everything. But yeah, I loved it. I again think it's a great exploration of the Empire, of what it's
Yeah.
like for people in the rebellion. It's becoming really gritty, and it's slowly really becoming like one of my favorite Star Wars things, period. Like from whatever Disney has done so far, it was probably the best thing, because it's not just a good Star Wars show. It's just a really good show. And I feel like anybody who's not watching it should be watching this. This is literally one of the best things on television this year, and absolutely a must watch for Star Wars fans or not, because it's incredible, from the writing to the acting, where I remember in the first 3 episodes where we were wondering like what the show is and if we're gonna like it. We didn't really know what to expect, where by
Right.
now it's completely turned me around, where I totally invested. I can't wait for each episode next week. And even when it's not full on action, there is so much interesting things being discussed, themes being explored. And the biggest thing is it's giving us the deepest look into the world of Star Wars that I feel like we've ever gotten, especially the rebellion and the Empire, which are like the two main things where the Jedis and the Sith are in between fighting for it. But it's so crazy. Like, it's so crazy to think this is all happening. There's like people like Andor all across the galaxy. Meantime, we have Luke on Tatooine, like moisture farming and shooting womp rats and everything, completely oblivious that he's going to be the savior of all of these people. Like, insane to think. But yeah, overall loved it. Yeah. Anything else you want to say before we give it a rating and get into the spoiler section?
No, man. My only question to you was, which I thought maybe we would get into like at the end of the episode, but since you mentioned it, that I was like, is this the second episode of the 3-episode arc?
I think so.
And like episode 7 was just like how you mentioned earlier, like a breather episode, and I felt the same thing, except the difference was that pacing wise, the first 2 arcs had like the first episode of each arc was introduction, and that was like really well paced. and then every time the second episode was the one that was really slow.
Yeah.
But in this, it's like if this is the second one, then the previous episode to me was like the really slow one, which I felt would be setting up things. But I mean, I'm okay with that. I don't really care about that in terms
Yeah,
of
I still think it follows the similar formula in terms of setup,
yeah,
further exploration of the situation, climax. You know,
yeah. It's
um,
like you get its introduction to a new thing. You get everything is now being set up, the plan and the locations, and now we're gonna get to the climax of in the third episode,
yeah, and
which
it's
we love.
surprisingly
Yeah,
it's still working really, really well.
yeah,
Like I haven't felt like whiplash type where I'm like, it never feels like you're not still watching the same show, even though
yeah.
things change drastically in terms of location and situation.
I
Overall,
agree.
it probably helps with the other storylines that are going on while Andor is just going
Mm,
from situation to situation. But yeah, overall, it's still working really well. I really like this, and I hope they'll continue this for future seasons, and maybe they'll think about just releasing 3 episodes at a time. But it's nice to just have so much Star
right.
Wars to have every Tuesday night just like a new episode ready. It's so amazing.
Yeah,
I love it. For like 12 episodes, it's like, yes, please. Give us more than 6. 6 always felt too little.
yeah,
But all right,
and
so
yeah.
yes, sorry.
Oh no, no, I was just gonna say like that as a show and everything, it's like even though Mandalorian was so good, but this is like there's so much more going on in this where it's like a full show and you're like so invested in everything where every new episode it's like you get so much more where like you said it's like you actually now look forward to every new thing where it's not like, oh, here's a new Mandalorian episode, I'll see what Mandalorian does now. But in this it's like, oh my god, I can't wait to see what happens next, and oh my god, what's going to happen with this, what's going to happen with that. And yeah, it's just like how you get into a new show, not Star Wars based, and it's just like a great thriller show. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna mention.
Yeah, I mean, it's would be a interesting exploration to think about what, for example, why did Boba Fett feel like a failure versus Andor just succeeding,
Mm,
where it's a similar idea where they took a character from a Star Wars movie and explored it deeper. And then also,
yeah,
what's the difference between this and Obi-Wan also, where it's similar idea, but I feel like all 3 projects have been so different. Even Mandalorian, which is actually amazing if you think about it, where they're almost like different genres, where like, yeah, actually, yeah, even Boba Fett was a different genre than what Mandalorian is, which is kind of awesome. Like I really like it. It's again, it just makes it more for everybody. You know, not everybody is
mm,
into thrillers,
yeah,
so for them, they have the Mandalorian, which is a little bit more Western adventure.
yeah, and a little more light. It's weird to think that it's a little more lighthearted, but it is.
Oh, it's totally.
Like in comparison to Andor.
I mean, Andor at this point is pretty gritty for Star Wars
Yeah,
specifically. I don't think we've ever been this dark.
yeah, and it's one Star Wars thing that I don't think kids should watch.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking of multiple implications of sex, the torture,
Yeah,
like suicide,
brothels.
forced murder. No, what would the yeah, like I don't want to
Is
spoil
murder.
anything, but
Yeah,
it was
okay.
basically assisted suicide, you could call it almost.
Mm,
But like, like these type of things are pretty grown up and pretty gritty, especially for Star Wars. So yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think this is it's a hard PG-13 at the least.
yeah,
Which again,
I
I
agree.
honestly, it's great. I feel like there's some great stories that can be told when people don't feel like they have to be PG, where
Yeah,
it's not about like them needing to use a higher rating just so that they can be vulgar. It's more about
right.
like some people have a story to tell. It's just very grown up, and
And
it's
that
nice
that
to
has
see.
adult themes in it.
Exactly, and it's nice to see Disney proving
Right,
to be not scared to do that. Like when
right.
they acquired Fox, it was the big discussion of what would happen to something like Deadpool, or would they ever do
Mm,
a R-rated Wolverine like Fox did? And
mm,
they're slowly trying to show the people that like, no, we're getting there. Like
right.
we're not gonna do from one day to the other suddenly have like bloody gore, but I'm feeling it. Like from all the projects I've seen them do with Werewolf by Night and
Mm,
a couple of other things, like slowly it's getting more mature, and
right.
I'm very glad to see that they're on that mission.
I agree.
But yeah, so let's give it our final rating before we go into our spoiler section.
I would go with 8.5, maybe 8.7.
Yeah, I think I'll have to
It's
agree.
yeah.
But yeah,
It was a great setup. It was just in line with all the good episodes. I mean, even the last one was good for me, but it was just a little lower than most of the other episodes. But it's like the show has, I think, defined its mean median rating, which is, I think, 8.5 is like there's one or two episodes which just go on to like 9.5, 10, but most of the time it stays between 8 and 9. And this was just like it's staying consistent with how it's been.
yeah, I think I have to totally agree with everything you said.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly my thoughts of
Yeah.
it's consistent. It's I think the baseline, like you said, is that, and it totally didn't drop the ball on anything. It like always just has me ready for what's to come. I love it for
Mhm.
that.
I was just a little tiny bit concerned with last week's episode because to me that was like, oh, I hope we don't go in this direction where it's like now every episode is going to be 55 minutes long and it's going to meander in places because it's the same writer, but
Yeah.
he clearly reined it in. And some of the things which we'll get into later, which I felt, I don't know what actual audience reactions were, but some of the reactions I had to previous episodes, there's jokes about it in this episode, which I found it hilarious.
Maybe he realized that the next week after they shot the episode, he's like, actually, when people say my dialogue,
Exactly.
it's kind of different.
Yeah.
So those were our overall spoiler-free thoughts and rating of the show. Let us get into the spoiler-filled recap of the show. But before we do that, Shabs, I just wanted to mention something. This time I got some themes that I've noticed.
Whoa.
It does happen. They said it couldn't be done. But
Yeah.
I noticed, so the episode is called Nobody's Listening. And I noticed that's
Mhm.
full on a theme in the episode with the Senate not listening, Andy Serkis is not listening, the prison guards are not listening, Cyril is not listening to his mom, and so on. It's a bunch of people literally not listening, which is again on the nose, but I liked it. There was another episode, I don't remember now which one, where we discussed how like it went throughout the episode. It was slowly building up to what the name of the episode is. So I thought
The
that was
axe
kind of,
forgets.
I think that was the one. That's the one was in
Right.
my head, but then I couldn't remember the examples that we had for it. But yeah,
Right.
so I totally appreciate it. Like I was kind of looking out for it because it was such a noticeable title that it's Nobody's Listening with an exclamation mark.
With an exclamation mark on it.
And like he, of course, I also always love when they say the name of the episode in the episode. I feel like I need to have a shot. I need to start having just like a shot glass next to me ready. It feels wrong. You know what I mean? But
Right.
so another thing I noticed was there's a lot of like a whole theme of lights turning off, where it's the Senate and protest to Mothra, for example, or in the facility the lights going off, or even Andy Serkis when he doesn't want to listen to Andor, he turns off the lights in protest, which is again I thought was kind of interesting to notice. Like it was a theme of protest shown by lighting. And then I saw from New Rockstar, Eric Voss mentioned actually that the theme of the Empire not listening was actually kind of shown also by them showing how they drown out the sound of the Republic, which was a little bit of a theme of this episode as well in terms of what the Empire was doing. And they did a lot of things with that, with the sound, with like the loud noise from the machinery and the Senate lights being also very loud. And again, like I said, that kind of went into everything.
Torture.
The torture, exactly. I was getting to that, and overall,
That's
it
right.
was like, yeah, no worries. But it was that type of themography throughout the entire show, which I think is why it always is so compelling. Why it keeps you gripped, because even if you don't notice it, it will have an effect on you. That there is everybody is kind of on a similar path while doing completely different things, which is really awesome to see.
Right.
Like, yeah, I love it.
Do
But
you think the lights turning off and all that stuff was also maybe symbolic of the light dimming inside, where it's like Star Wars is about light versus dark,
yeah,
and there's always this thematic battle of even with our with our protagonist, where it's like we don't know whether he's gonna fall on the light side or the dark side.
yeah. I mean, the Senate turning off the lights is literally them joining the dark side in a way,
Yeah, there you go.
you know?
Yeah,
So yeah, I think that could totally be a theme of light and dark, which
right.
is again really cool. They do a lot of like little things in the show where it's really cool to just see that you can tell they really care and they're really trying to do
Yeah.
something here. It's not just a paycheck, you know?
Yes. And they're not just trying to do a good show based on just like, oh, we're just gonna put up a good show. It's like when you have underlying themes, when you have so much symbolism, when you have so much effort put into your script and your vision of your entire show, it shows that the people really really care about telling a story that they want to tell, and it just happens to inhabit the Star Wars, like the Star Wars universe just happens to inhabit that story,
Yeah.
and that's what's so great about it.
I mean, I've heard a criticism of some people not wanting to watch it because they think that they know how Andor ends. They know he's going to die in Rogue One, so they think like, what is the character investment if you already know how the story ends? Where I feel like that's not really fair for what they're doing because we didn't really know him properly in that movie. We didn't know Andor the character the way that this show is telling us, and I feel like I am so invested. I totally forget that where it's going, and I feel like your death does not define your life anyways. It's the actions you do,
Right.
like
The
throughout.
journey.
Exactly. So yeah, I
But
totally don't
but
see that criticism.
we also raised those questions, I think, in one of the first two episodes or something, where it's like, I think I raised that question where I think like we already know what's the point of in like introducing us to a character where we know how the story is going to end, so there's literally all the tension is diffused from any kind of climactic moment that's supposed to take place within the show. But then as we've seen that he's not really the story of the show.
Yeah.
The story is way grander, and he's just us that's thrown in the middle of all this. And now we're just starting to be introduced to all these Star Wars things that are happening through his eyes. And he's sort of just the vehicle that's driving the show, but the show isn't actually about him.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about one thing with Luthen where he kind of did that, like he made that heist happen, and with that heist he kind of got the Empire to show their hand. Like he's
Yeah.
he with that heist he's trying to show everybody what the Empire really is. Like I like I did we didn't really talk about the fact that Marva was like she was inspired to join the rebellion after she heard about what happened with the heist.
Yeah.
And she's seeing that like now there's a rebellion where like Andor inadvertently like made his surrogate mother join the rebellion, and he's
Hmm.
already having a huge effect. It's more Luthen who did it, but he's definitely,
Right.
we still don't know why he was chosen, but he's definitely a part of a huge catalyst that is like amazing to see that like it's the beginnings of something huge. And
Right.
yeah, like I was saying, I just appreciate them really exploring this part of the universe.
And also even though Andor is, like I mentioned, like he's just a vehicle driving this, like like he's our eyes into this other story. He's also very important to the story, which is also something I like, because otherwise I would have been like, I don't want to get invested in a character that not only do we know how his story is ends, but he's also not that important to this grand story, but where his actions drove, like were catalysts to how now the Imperial Bureau is like trying to hunt down all these other things, and sort of has a hunch on Luthen and how all those things are connected.
Yeah. I also, another thought I had, which I like to ask you. So Rogue One, a big theme of that story was that every character that you got to know and care about died by the end of the show.
Right.
Do you think, besides Andor, we don't, besides Mothma, we don't see anybody that's introduced in the show ever again in the later movies or anything, barely even mentioned? So do you think by the end, like they're slowly going to take everybody away? Like I think, for example, Vel would be an interesting one to go, just because of who she is and how her connections could be inspiring from
Right.
Mothma to join the rebellion full force and fight the
That's
way that
definitely
her
what's gonna
cousin is
happen.
fighting. You know, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like they might not do it this season, but if they did, maybe like in the final episode, just as like a big holy shit moment, because
Yeah.
like so far it hasn't been set up that like anybody can go Game of Thrones style or Oz style. But I don't know. I'm starting to wonder this, like just the way that the people that are still around, the way that they're starting to connect them and stuff like that. I feel like it's purposeful so that their deaths will mean a lot when they do eventually go away.
Right. Or some of them could go into hiding, like how even right now the Imperial has no idea where any of these people are and who they are. So it could just be like like some perish and some just go into hiding, and that's why we don't hear from them.
Well, I feel like it's the final battle in Return of the Jedi. Even in A New Hope, by the end, the rebellion gets together. Like
Right.
I feel like at that point they wouldn't have to hide anymore, right? Like like if
Right.
you're a
Yeah.
big player like this, you would probably come out and step up. You know, you'd be like you're the part of the start of all of this. You know, like
Mhm.
why suddenly when you have a chance to end it all, why not be there? I don't know, but yeah, it could
Maybe
totally
maybe
happen.
this maybe from a personal standpoint they think their their methods, how we describe like Luthen, if you have to become so cold for the rebellion, it's like what's the
Yeah,
difference between you and someone in the Empire? So maybe as just like a personal thing where someone maybe Luthen, maybe Vel, because you see her turning darker, or maybe it's just a facade. But
yeah,
it could be like and Mon Mothma questioning, like she has to now take a meeting with a thug. So it's like how far do you let your moral compass be corrupted in the fight to fight the dark side? And it's like, do you end up just becoming a dark person? And now it's like there is no light side, there is no dark side because you're both the same. So maybe someone realizes like, oh my god, I've gone too far in this fight and I need to just get away. I don't know. I'm literally just pulling at anything
mm. Yeah. It
that
could
could
be
make
though.
sense where it's not like everyone just perishes, where it's like, oh, we don't have a safe spot where it's like, oh my god, none of these people were there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that could also happen, like Rogue One style and all the other stuff you mentioned. But
That's why I thought about it, just because it was thematic to the
yeah.
movie that this is a prequel to, and
Mm,
since they're not setting it up in a way where you're just expecting everybody to die,
yeah.
it would give it way more impact. You know, like once you find
Right.
out if Val is Luthen's daughter and Luthen is like Mothma's mother's brother or something like that. I don't know. Like it's gonna get like pretty
Yeah.
like crazy, right? Like
Soap
it's
opera. Soap opera.
yeah, people are gonna get pretty upset about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
before final thing, I'll ask you before we get in there,
Okay.
Andy Serkis.
Oh.
You think he's gonna turn into Snoke?
Oh, I actually never thought that. That would be amazing or hilarious. I'm not sure. I think both. I actually don't know how to feel about that. It would be amazing and hilarious at the same time, I think, right? If
Right?
he just uh yeah, but he would have like those gold robes, I guess, and what would happen to his hair, his poor hair? Well, maybe he gets fried in the thing, right? Maybe that's what happened. Oh,
Maybe next
that's
episode
amazing.
he's gonna start looking like Snoke all of a sudden.
Dude, that would be so
He also
amazing.
has
Cause
to turn immortal because he has to survive a long fucking time till Snoke shows up.
yeah, that's true. Well,
But
I
there's
think we
clones.
kind of
There's
yeah,
cl-
that's what I was gonna mention.
yeah.
And it would be similar to what happened to Palpatine. Like they both get charred, I guess, right?
Yeah.
They both get burnt up, and they end up looking like the Sith or whoever, whatever
Like,
they
just
are.
imagine it's
I have no idea what the storyline
in
is.
in the show Andor, we get a 3-season arc of how Andy Serkis became Snoke.
Oh, that would be
And we're
amazing. That would
like,
be like Anakin turning to Darth Vader,
right? We're like, we never
ignoring.
knew,
Yeah, we never knew he was just a floor manager.
right?
Oh my god, it would be hilarious to see that and then go back and see a Force Awakens.
Right?
And it's like he's like this giant thing, like telling Kylo Ren, like, "Hey, you got." And they're like, "Oh my god, that's the guy who was on who had
It's like
that nice, super oily hair." I'm guessing now.
like,
I'm
I
getting
hope they
confused now.
like George Lucas special edition, just his hair on a mannequin in the background once they confirm it's Snoke.
That would be amazing.
Where I
That
do
would
have
be
to say,
amazing. I hope that happens.
his hair wasn't as coiffed this time. He had to slick it
Yes,
back quite a
it
bit.
fell down. He had to slick it down. I noticed that as well. But how does his hair look like that? Is it just like dirty, like natural oil? Because if you don't wash your hair for a while, like your natural oil starts to build up. But it's like dirty oil, you know? It's like sweat and all this stuff combined. Or
It's
is it
this
just like, does he have extra privileges where he gets like products like can
it's the
use for his
stuff
hair
that
so
they
he can.
drink. It's the sludge.
Oh, right. I'm glad you when you did this. I was like, oh my god, I hope you don't. So sorry, podcast listeners, you're gonna have to see what Root was doing on YouTube. It's gonna be like a, there's something about Mary type of situation where Cameron Diaz gets some gel in her hair.
And maybe that could be it too. That's actually
Right?
a better
Yeah, that
solution.
could be it. Yeah, why
Also,
not?
by the way, listeners, I forgot to mention at the beginning, check us out on YouTube in case you want
Yes.
shorter versions of what we're doing. We've edited together a couple of clips together with showing what we're talking about, and
Mhm.
it should be an easier way in when you don't have time to listen to the whole pod. You can get
Yeah.
the important bits out on
A-
YouTube.
and they're edited where it's like you have funny images and it looks way funnier than just listening to it.
True. But all right,
Yes.
there we go.
Oh my
Spoiler
God.
discussion also done. Now,
Oh.
let's get into the recap. I'm curious
do
if it
it.
starts with the opening.
It
music.
starts with the opening. Oh
The
yeah,
music.
dude, did you hear the music this time?
Yeah, that's why I wrote it down.
It was so different. It was like a psytrance from like Goa from like the 90s.
I
Did
was
you hear
saying,
that?
I thought it was going back to like Blade Runner. We were like
Yeah,
dystopian,
it was.
you know, like yeah. It was cool.
But like a trance version.
I mean, I love that sound. I feel like that is like the Andor soundtrack, just like an amplified version of it. But yeah, loved it.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
take us
And
away.
yes. So now in the recap, we start off with Dedra interrogating Bix, and she's just basically asking about Axis and Cassian, and introducing her to their interrogation methods.
Yeah, that neck crack from Ellen DeGeneres, Space Ellen DeGeneres, ooh,
Like this.
gets you ready. A
Ooh,
chiropractor was sitting there, is like, I want that neck. Give me that
I
neck.
just injured mine trying to do that.
God, don't break your
I'm
neck,
not as
bro.
good as her. I'm not as good as her.
She was tense.
Oh,
There's also there's a moment where Biggs tells her, You're not going to believe me anyways," and she's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I guess not." There's a moment where like her cheek kind of like goes like like it kind of vibrates a little bit, and you're like, "Damn, man, she's doing cheek acting, bro."
Mm.
Like, nice.
She was great. Whoever I don't know the name of the actress, but she was amazing.
Yeah,
in
she
this.
was evil this time around.
Yes. Yes.
Really good. And then I also I like the Imperial Security Bureau, the ISB, that like
ISB.
now like it's more and more they're going like I feel like it's been said more now we fucking know, what the fuck, what is the idea behind these guys? Like, why haven't we seen these guys in the other thing? Because, all right, but like, I love how they're just so methodical. And at this point, actually, we were talking about last time how maybe they're trying to show how they're actually really shit at their job. They're actually getting pretty good. I feel like they got pretty much everything they needed to know so far, besides the fact that they have Andor in custody, which is still fucking stupid. But they were like, oh, you know, like they got all the information from Bix, and then they also knew about that dude that Luthen was talking about. No, that Forrest Whitaker. Yeah, Forrest Whitaker was mentioning last time, and so far they're like Dedra is killing it. She's on the Andor's fucking heels. Like she knows pretty much exactly what happened, except like where are they now and who is Axis. But fucking really cool to see.
And did you notice what Bix asked? I don't know why I called her Andorra for some reason. We were talking about Avatar, the new Avatar, and we were talking about Pandora. And I was like, wait, Andorra? No, her name is Dedra. Vix asked Dedra, you seem like you're enjoying this. And I noted that down because I brought up the question last pod where I was asking what are her Dedra's exact motivations. Is she just really good at her job, or is she actually evil from the inside? Is she both? And I'm glad to see that even Bix is sort of questioning that, where you're like, is this just a good interrogation method, or is she actually enjoying torturing and being powerful, which we sort of see later with the prefect, where he's on the complete end of that, where he just obviously enjoys his power and he's full of hatred, and that's the only motivation he has, where he has a superiority complex. So
yeah, I think just like how they did with Skeen, they're putting little hints in where it's very subtle, but it is, for example, when she tells her report to the rest of the council or whatever, when in the Imperial offers where they're all talking about what she's found out from Bix, there's a moment at the very end where like it's very small, but like she does like a smirk of like she's just really happy, like she's excited that like, you know, like she figured it out. And like I feel like this is like personal desire to do this. It's beyond like just following the Empire. But
she's an A+ student, and she's gonna get up every day and make her bed, and she's gonna brush her teeth on time, and then she's gonna study hard and get an A+ on everything, and she's gonna be in the front row on the front seat. And I think that's just who she is. And she was just like you said, maybe like she was just brought up in this environment and was just brainwashed, where she doesn't really see this difference between good and evil. She's just part of a security thing where she's just trying to protect, and this is her job, and she's amazing at it. And I think that's just what it is. Because you see I think it's a good way to show the difference between her and the prefect, where you're like, okay, that guy clearly only just cares about the superficial stuff that comes with power, where he's like, can I have the prefect logo and the title, and I want to do this and I want to do that. But with her, it's like she's only about the job and nothing else. And she also says to Bix, the very worst thing you can do to me right now is bore me.
I love that line.
And I was like, please, yes. I was like, writers, you heard me about last episode. It's like, please don't bore me anymore.
In my head, I was like, this is the middle episode of the arc to put that line in, because I had that same feeling where it's like, you know, there's people who probably think the show is boring, and then you saying that, it's like so emphasizing it that much. But I think they were more going like boring. Also, that she's going to be boring for answers. I don't know. There's like no, I know that she doesn't want to be bored. And she was like, the worst thing you can do is waste my time, which is also really nice.
She said both.
And it's like a nice contrast to also show how like the same is going for Andor, where the worst thing they can do right now is waste time because their time's running out. right, while they're in the
Yes.
prison. More thing, a little trivia of that scene. At the very
Okay.
end, there's the shot of the door closing, and the camera follows the footsteps of an officer when Bix
Hmm.
is being interrogated, and she like you hear
Right.
the first scream. It's actually a direct nod to the same shot of Leia on the Death Star being tortured by Darth Vader in A New Hope. They do the exact
Really?
same camera pan, which I thought again was very cool. It's just like it's such a little
Wow.
thing, but like the second you see it, you're like, I've seen that soon. Like I feel like I've seen that before. Very dope.
Mm. They had some Kubrick references as well, I think, if you
Yeah.
noticed those.
Which ones?
Okay, I'll just mention it now. Well, the first one is the torture device
Okay, I can see that.
with Clockwork Orange. It's the similar concept,
Yeah, just instead of
right?
audio visual, it's just audio.
Yeah, and
I was thinking of that
the
more. It reminded me more of just like what the CIA does in general, like in real life,
right,
how you torture somebody. Which also
yeah,
we'll get to. It was an interesting way to torture with the screams of babies or kids.
babies, yeah,
Yeah.
and a certain type of I think the frequency of the audio and stuff also has like a psychological impact. It's not
I,
just like which I was like, wow, like
I,
that's pretty
I think
crazy.
it plays into the animalistic, like we have primal
Mm,
instincts, and like it's been
right.
proven that like a crying baby, it does something to a human,
Mm,
because we
right.
always worried about predators and other things. Like it has a specific effect when it's a child that you're hearing in distress.
Right. Yeah. But yeah. All
One
right.
thing that
Okay.
Screen Crush was mentioning again that last time I mentioned it was referencing the first movie from George Lucas, and this time they pointed out that this episode specifically has way more references in terms of like shot for shot things that are
Hmm.
taken from that first movie, X something 13. Yeah, so I thought that was cool. That like I thought of that last week, and yeah, turns out they were giving the hints for it to like this episode actually straight up just be like, yeah, like apparently that movie is not that great. It's like very like like all the problems that people had with like Star Wars. It's like the
Hmm.
beginnings of it are there. But it's cool for the
Oh,
fact that
okay.
like you see also the other ideas of like what made Star Wars. It has the very two-dimensional characters that they
Hmm.
usually criticize Star Wars for in the early days, but
Hmm.
overall idea-wise and visually, it's actually pretty cool. Okay.
That's cool, man. All right. And now we just see a little bit of Cassian in his assembly line, in his Cassembly line.
I got one for you later.
I'm sorry, guys.
It's okay.
Please,
Uh,
please don't unsubscribe.
it's okay. This time I pulled the shabs. Yeah, you and
Okay.
or inspired me. I've got one for you
Right.
later.
Okay, okay, all right, we'll get all right. I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, we just see them sort of just doing their thing, assembling their stuff. And then we get back to Bix and we meet Dr. Gorst and they explain the whole torture device that we talked about. And the one thing with that guy was like I usually hate whenever they make like these kind of scientists look creepy by making them extra giddy or eccentric, but this guy literally just seemed like a creep
Yeah,
where he was so focused on his actual scientific technology where he was just super excited about his like dude you can't you dude you won't believe what we got, man. We were able to get the screams of I don't think he has actual connection to any human emotion.
yeah.
He's so like deep into his scientific technology where he's just like, yo, Bix, you got to check this out. And Bix is like, I don't know.
My
And
favorite part was
I like
when
that
he's
subtlety.
my favorite part is when he's introduced. He does a little wave.
And it's not like, hey, look, I'm creepy, and it's like, hi,
I'm
I'm
here
Dr.
too.
Gorst.
I don't know if you
Yeah,
noticed me.
I'm
I,
Dr. Gorst.
I'm about to torture you.
Yeah. Well, I don't even think he thinks it's torture in his mind, where he just thinks like, well, obviously he thinks, but like, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, from the way they've shown it, it's almost like, Yeah, it's kind of funny where it's nuanced as Dedra explains her methods.
Yeah.
And now we get to a very cool, important scene. Back to Cassian in his assembly line, and he goes to the bathroom, which was kind of weird to me that you can just in this like super strict discipline thing, you can just walk over to a bathroom and do all this. But he starts scraping the pipe with a tool, and he starts planning out his thing with a new character we meet, a black person. Oh, I didn't remember, but he's a black person. But and they're sort of discussing how to take on the guards as they're coming down, as a new inmate is introduced.
Yeah, but with the bathroom thing, I can get that you can just go pee because it's like the problem with it that I had was it's the same thing as the dude in the comms tower in episode 6.
Right.
Because
that
it's
opening.
literally like you can see from the side, they show that like you can see the entire like hall. Like I don't know how Andy Serkis did not notice it, that like why are his feet not poking out over there? Like why can't I see his butt while he's peeing standing up? And like he's like knocking on it. Like how do you not hear
Yeah,
that?
that was the
Right?
problem I had.
Like it was again one of those, it's specifically now in Star Wars, because Obi-Wan had a moment like that too, where it's like it's starting to become a theme where they don't they just don't want you to think about that. They're like, noise doesn't travel. Like
Yeah.
people they just don't look certain ways. It's just a thing. What I thought was cool though is you see that like they've been working on it for a while, and it's kind of like Shawshank Redemption with the little hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Escape from Alcatraz.
Yeah. If you want to go that far.
Where
Back.
yeah, I will go that far. They took me that far. And then it'll be, I've gone too far.
It's gone too far. But
Too
yeah,
far.
again, I love that it was like I was saying last episode, they were hinting at the fact that he was clocking everything and he's scheming. And I like that this episode we're just here and he's already. I like the fact that the other guy looks at Andor going to the bathroom, and at first you're like, oh, is he not okay with this? Is he going to be a problem? And then you're like, oh no, he's slow. He's been gathering these guys. They're getting ready. Andy Serkis is like the last guy he has to convince. Everyone else already is on board and shit. And they're like, probably that thing, it was probably not just Andor. Everybody is slowly working on where I think what that is. They didn't say what it is, but I think it's the hydraulics for the elevator that they bring the new inmate in. Because they keep saying we're going to stop it halfway. And then he doesn't keep saying it. He says it once specifically, but yeah. Again, I like it. I like that they went from him just looking and us assuming what he's saying in his head to him just telling the other guy, no boots on, and like no electricity, and like going through everything step by step. Very cool.
Yeah, I really like that they go through step by step, but only some of the steps, where it's not like you're like, wait, did they just start talking about this? But they should have been talking about it already, so they would be in the middle of a conversation. And that's what I like, where it's like they've already discussed some things. They have a thing already planned out, and they're just going over the steps and sort of improvising as it goes along. And
it feels like him finding out how many guards are on every floor from Andy Serkis is like the last piece that he needs to know.
Right.
They all discussed it, and they're like, the only person that knows is him. And it's like, it feels like that. Like, that is the missing key. It's not only that, it's also obviously convincing him, because he's probably going to be useful. But yeah, I loved it. Andy Serkis is so good in this episode. His whole acting,
oh my god,
going from just floor manager to now slowly questioning everything, and like so good. The final line, what a hit. All of it. And like also when he's standing there with the slicking his hair back and
he's like,
his ear all weird and shit. I don't know why they kept that, but he's just like, he's slowly, like, it's not just the way he's saying it, like his whole body is slowly changing when they're talking about what happened to floor number 2. I love that guy.
that's what I like about the show, where it's like I was gonna ask this question last time, but I kind of forgot. Where it's like Andy Serkis, he whenever he's playing like by himself, he's not doing voice acting. It's usually the similar kind of character where it's like the hard ass military type of a guy. But just because he has that presence and he has that accent and he speaks like that, but they've shown with all the characters in this thing where there's always this moment of vulnerability where it's like they start questioning everything around them and you're like, oh, he's actually not just a one-dimensional person where he's like, hey man, I'm a floor manager and I'm just gonna do my thing and you better not affect my shifts and my way of getting out of here. It's like he is human and he is actually an inmate, and all these guys are trying to pull him back towards them, and they're like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
And
we
just
discussed
his
even.
acting was great.
I feel like we discussed last week how there was already like little hints of that, where
Yeah.
he kind of, you could tell that he wasn't just a bad guy. He thinks following this will get him out of here, and
Right.
but he was still like, sleepwalk, right? And like these little
Yeah.
things of he was just very content with like being there, like him standing proudly in the shower. It was just him. It's not that he's for the empire. It's just like he's like, I do this, I get up. And this
Exactly.
episode, he finds out that like that's probably not the case, and that shatters his entire reality.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. And like moments of him like about to crack, and then Cassian pulls him back in, and then it's like you're waiting for him to just snap and be like, okay, fuck this. I'm not doing this anymore. And you just wait, and it's about to happen, and then it happens. And you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, and there's other subtle things where later on when they're doing the sign language to talk to the other floors and stuff, he gets very upset, and it felt kind of that he was more upset about the fact that he probably can't communicate like that. He has to take the official channels, and because of that, he's one of the last people to find out what the hell is going on. He's like, it takes me a week, like you already know. Like I think it was more frustration again, showing that he just realized that whatever he's doing, it's has no purpose,
And what I like about that is also, I literally, when I saw the guy sign languaging again, I wrote down, I was like, can't Andy Serkis see this? Like, wouldn't he be like, hey, what are you doing? Like, get back to your position. And then it's like, oh, he does see it, and it's okay. Like, it's understood whatever they're doing, And it's like, oh, okay, cool. You answered my question, show. You didn't leave it as a plot hole.
Yeah,
Where it's like, hey, he's just out in the open, just sign languaging, because in the previous episode, Cass seemed like the only person who noticed that, because everyone else was in line, and Cass was like, what is this guy up to? I think he's sign languaging someone. It's like, dude, everybody can see you. Like, why isn't anyone else mentioning anything? And it's like, oh, they've already seen this, and it's okay for them to like find out, like, and communicate this way. And like you said, like, it's a personal frustration with Andy Serkis that even though he's in charge, he's the last one to get all the information, and that has to be frustrating.
He's also basically sign screaming because it has to be seen from so far. So his movements are very big. It's like definitely everybody saw that, which goes back to the whole thing with nobody's listening. Like
nobody's listening.
Nobody's watching this shit. Nobody needs to. But yeah,
we're coining the phrase "sign screaming."
Yeah,
it's a trademark of the Red Chill LLC. We need to start an LLC first, though.
But yeah, we'll wait for your royalties.
Yes. But yeah, and then where were we? What were we talking about?
Andor was just looking at the elevator.
Right. They were discussing the plan and everything, and then there's like a couple of scenes which are interspersed with the Cassian assembly line and Bix in the interrogation room. And Bix has been tortured a little bit, and Dedra gets some information, and she's like, hey, keep her alive. And the prefix says, what do I do? Now this is the first time they've said out the name. I'm just going to mention it, and then we're going to move on. I'm not going to say too much about it. We spoke with Salman Pak, and I was like, okay, that's it. But I'm just going to, I'll let the audience discuss what that is. But
they answered again your question where last time you thought that Pak was his nickname.
Right. It was his nickname. Right.
But it's his last name.
Right. Even for that, I'm not. I'm not gonna mention anything. I'm gonna
No,
practice restraint from all the social commentary and walking the line.
no, but it just goes. That's not as bad because in Germany,
Right.
it's very normal that like your profession back in the day became your
Mm,
last name. Like baker is
right.
like like, or we have other things like that in other countries as well. So
In
it would
India as
be,
well.
yeah. So I would say it could be that we're like, oh, we don't have a last name.
I'm
It's like
no, no.
Han Solo got his name, where they're just
Right.
like, you're alone, so now you're Han Solo. He
I'm
didn't have
just
a
curious as to why that name was chosen.
because he didn't have a name, and he didn't have anything else going on for him. They're like,
That's my problem. That you're actually making it worse because Han Solo's name was given to him because he was solo. Why was Salman's name Pack?
he has a kid. He wasn't alone. He wasn't solo.
No. But do you get my point? Where Han Solo's last name was given to him because he was solo, so that's his last name.
Yeah.
Why was Salman's name Pack as his last name?
Because he wasn't solo, and like Salman
He's
duo
he's
sounds dumb. There's already a guy with
he's
that name.
he's part of a pack.
Yeah, maybe that is. There was a bunch of them.
I'm just saying it's way too close to a racial slur, and that's all I'm gonna say.
They
Okay.
put that extra A in there, okay?
Yes, and they removed the I from it.
But
Okay, all my British friends know what I'm talking about.
I also remember the torture device on VIX.
Hmm.
What that reminded me of, it was the Demolition Man cyber sex torture device. Well, that's what I called it. It's not torture in Demolition Man, but like in my head, I was like, oh, it's like the Demolition Man sex scene, but like a torture. So my note was Demolition Man cyber sex torture device, because it's
Oh
the
my
same
God.
thing, and they're also screaming like it was basically torturing Sylvester Stallone. To be fair, so yeah, I was just thinking in my head, I was like, oh, who is she locked into? Who's on the other line?
What I wonder what kind of torture would actually make you ejaculate.
What do you mean?
That's what you're saying, right? A sex torture device.
Yeah.
So what
But
kind of torture would actually make you ejaculate?
well, I don't think that's the point of torture. Now we're getting back into light pollution. There,
No,
there can
that's
be sex without ejaculation.
Now you're talking about some real heady stuff. We're getting into philosophy now.
Yeah, I mean, sex doesn't mean ejaculating. That's like, it's an outcome from sex. But I think sex torture would mean you're being tortured using sex.
You forgot to say no pun intended when you said it's an outcome of sex.
Man, I
So what were
intended
we
that.
talking about? Oh, you intended that. Okay then. All right then.
We're talking about the Demolition
all
Man
right.
cyber sex torture device.
Cyber sex torture device. There we go. Yeah, I would like to try one of those. I'll see. It'll be kind
Also,
of fun to see.
isn't this the scene where we're in the line with Andor and the lights flicker?
No, that's later.
Okay.
Where they're inside that thing where people are communicating and then the lights shut off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that comes a little later. Right now, it's just them in that whole assembly line situation, and Olaf isn't feeling well, and people are starting to notice.
Uli. Andy Serkis called
Uli.
it Uli. He had a nickname for him.
Uli.
I was like,
Yeah.
yo, it was his. Oh,
That was-
this
that
whole
was-
time, it was his boy after all. Uli.
You're my boy, Blue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was really sweet. I teared up when he called him Uli.
Right? He
Yeah.
got a bum rep. Like that the whole time they're like, it's so clear he's having a stroke. Like throughout the show, he's having a stroke. He's there like doing this, and immediately I'm like, that dude's having a stroke. They're just like, bro, yo, come on, Blue, you can do it. Keep going, Blue.
You're getting some carpal tunnel syndrome from playing too much World of Warcraft?
Yeah, like what the hell? Come on, man, you can put it in there. Like nobody, even like when later on they have to put on the hands on their head and they're covering him. It's like, they have a doctor and they don't know that
Yeah.
doctor is not going to help. It seems almost like this is the first time they called the doctor, but
Right.
why cover him? Be like, yo, this guy can literally not stand anymore. And they're just like,
What
bro.
do you want us to do?
And the whole time, Andy Serkis is like, he has 41 shifts left. Just give him something so he can do 41 more days of this. Come on, man.
It's only a few more days. I was like, dude,
Right?
40 is too many.
Yeah, like I was like, bro, if it was like 4 days or something, like
Yeah, I
41
know.
days,
I
that
agree.
dude he's not gonna make it till the end of the week. It's very clear. When he did this, I was like, oh, he's fucked. Nobody cared.
We're just trying to get him to just a few more days. I was like, few more days and 40 shifts don't add up, dude. I
Right?
think you got your space math wrong.
He holds up a few more days. I was like, bro, Andy, come on.
just
40
give him
days.
that thing that they gave that chick in Pulp Fiction, you know? It'll just get him through 40 more shifts.
Dude,
That
like,
adrenaline thing.
yeah, for Uli, like 40 days, that could be like half his life.
Yeah.
Half the rest of his life, you know? Like, we never know. Man's old. Also, who
Oh,
is.
God.
So, let's talk about Olaf.
Okay.
Olaf.
All right.
What-
Olaf.
So, there's this whole theme going on of them saying, you never leave. They just take prisoners and they put him back in. And I
Right.
think there was even like a little thing of like, it seemed like the doctor might have even seen this guy before. It was like, I don't know. But so, who's Olaf? Like, how long has he been in there? My theory is, and I saw some other people mentioning this too, but what is if he's the architect? Kind of Squid Game style, or like one of those, or like the Cube kind of thing, you know, like where he just has to live in his own creation, which is like, I feel like they gave us 0 hints for this and the guy is dead now. And it would be like a quick throwaway line where they're just like, oh, holy shit, that's the architect of the prison. Look at that. But yeah, there's definitely, it's showing something with him. He's way older than everybody.
Right.
Very
I
noticeably.
think he was there just to fulfill that character trope where, hey, this guy's been here for so long, you could end up like him, and then he's about to get out, but oh no, he didn't. I think he's there for those reasons, like for those purposes.
I guess.
That would be my guess.
Yeah, it could be. I would love for them to do more with him. He was just such a noticeable character without any lines for
Right.
the most part.
Right.
Where like even in the very first, like in the last episode, just when they're on the assembly line, the whole time you see there's something up with this guy. He's too
Right.
old. He shouldn't be here.
Whoa, dude. Easy, man.
No, but it's
what's up with the
like,
age shaming, bro?
No, but it's like if you think about, they're all about efficiency. It's all about
Right.
meeting a certain target, deadlines, and all of that stuff. Why have a dude in there that very clearly is not able to perform at the level that you need people to perform at? They're saying that like they replaced droids with humans, but like even at that point, at some point, it must like. But yeah, let's take people that actually can work for us. You know, where
I think
yeah.
Yes, I think it's more like what Andor just says, where they don't care enough to actually check all these things, where he's just an inmate and he's just been here, whatever. Like,
For how
I think
long?
he's just one of those, like in all like prison movies, there's always that one older guy that's there to show the main guy, hey man, if you like, I don't know why this is coming to my head, but The Longest Yard, where Burt Reynolds
Yeah.
is the old guy to Adam Sandler, and he's like, oh, he punched a guard, and now, hey, Adam Sandler, better be careful, otherwise you'll end up like Burt Reynolds.
True.
And I think that character trope is always supposed to be there just to show the main guy, like, hey man, better be careful, like otherwise you'll end up like this guy. And he's almost out, but he's not, and he's just there to fulfill like an emotional core to the story and an emotional motivation for other characters, like Tim was in a sense, where I
Yeah.
felt like he was the only character who was there to fulfill a role that motivates other people, rather than be a character in on him of himself. But
Yeah.
if they go a different route, that would be really cool too.
Yeah, I totally think like what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I just personally would love for them to do more of it. It just because he stuck out. I want to see more of Uli, MVP. Oh, also, I was mentioning the whole replacing droids with humans line that comes later. While I mentioned it, it also plays back to there's the whole thing. Tarkin replaced the droids from the original Phantom Menace and all with stormtroopers and like the clone troopers and all of
Right.
that, which was, I guess, a way of the Empire cutting costs, which is an interesting thought about it. Like,
Right.
it
Yeah.
goes back to like, why do the stormtroopers suck so much? Because they're just cutting costs. They could have got droids that are
Yeah.
just perfect shots, right?
Right.
But it's much cheaper to get just human meat shields.
Yeah. It's just cheap labor.
Yeah.
If like Andor said, it's way more easily replaceable than droids. You don't have to fix anything. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like out with the old, in with the new, and they don't even have to pay them.
Exactly.
All you need to do is make a bit of sludge, keep the water running.
You just
And
you
need
just get ethnic looking tourists and you detain them illegally.
Dude, what is it? It's like 4,000 inmates. Is it 400? I think it's 400 inmates and 48 guards. Like it's, like
But they don't care.
Yeah, but it's very low
That's
maintenance.
why it's so easy. Yeah. Yeah. They have all the cool tech to be able to. They have interrogation methods, so they don't need that many guards. They have those lava floors, electric lava floors, where they can just hang out in their cool Air Jordans, and they don't have to like carry weapons with them. They're space Jordans, sorry.
They actually, what I realized they reminded me of? Why I thought it was going to be some low gravity thing when I saw them first. It was Face Off. Remember the prison in Face Off that Nicolas Cage has to go into? And they have those metallic boots where like, for them it's to like lock them down to the floor.
Oh yeah, now I remember. Yeah.
That's why at first I was trying to think of like
he's
where did I see boots where they're giant chunky boots connected to the floor, but instead of here being connected, it's like to make sure they don't get electrocuted. But yeah, I just remembered that's actually what I was thinking of last week.
All right. So yeah, and then we also get our prefect telling Dedra that he would like to hang Pac, just to show. He says, "I would really like to hang Pac." I was like, "Whoa, man! Just bro."
They really like hanging
just to
people.
show who's in. Yeah, and now you see where a lot of people are just like crazy, full of hate and full of dark side. And yeah. And then we get to Our Lady Mon Mothma in the Senate meeting, and everyone's booing her, and they keep shutting off her lights. No one's paying attention to her charitable.
We've heard this before.
Yeah, boo. They actually went boo, and I was like, oh my god, she's like getting heckled in the Senate meeting.
Order.
It's like, what the hell?
Order.
And then there was a couple of people who were like, just give her a chance, guys. I was like, what? What is this?
It's even like the way they turn
like,
off the lights. It's like, I'm done with you.
Done with. Get out of here.
Yeah.
I don't want to listen to this nonsense. And I was like, okay. And then she's in her car and she gets to know that her cousin arrived at the embassy, and I was like, ooh, who's her cousin?
Even she's like, what? Here?
Like, what? That chick? Here?
No.
How is that
You
possible?
sure? The driver's
sure?
like, what the fuck? Why are you freaking out, man? It's your cousin.
Yeah.
Fuck? Come on, man.
You're
being fucking weird right now.
Rebellion plan? You got a rebellion planned or something?
Yeah, like what the hell? Like, is she a rebel or something?
Yeah.
Was she on Aldani?
She connected to the Axis someone?
Yeah.
I've
Like,
overheard.
what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, and then we get to, where do we get to? We get back to, oh yeah, now we get to your scene where something's wrong at Narkina, and everyone starts freaking out, and the power goes off, and they're like, oh my god, I think they fried 100 people at once. And you see Andy Serkis is just like, everybody chill out, like, he starts panicking and all that. I think that comes a little later as well, but you see the beginnings of him like starting to crack a little bit from that just regular floor manager dude, And you're like,
So
"Oh my
much
goodness."
pressure. Oh, this hair is so tight. Need to loosen it up.
I need to shampoo my hair. There's too much oil in it. There's too much gunk in my hair.
But yeah, lights turning off in that moment. What I got from that is that's the moment when they fry floor 2.
Yes, yeah, I agree. That's exactly
And
what it is.
it's interesting. So that lets you know that they need to redirect power to
Hmm.
really shock like a whole floor, which could be, again,
Yep.
indirectly be part of the plan to get out.
Right. Oh, right. That they. Oh, that's pretty good. That I actually I didn't think of that. Where they would shut off the power, where they would redirect power to another area, so that the power shuts off in this area for a couple of seconds, and they have like a small window, like the Aldani, like the Eye of Aldani thing.
Yeah,
That's pretty
exactly.
cool. Yeah, that's a cool
I,
observation.
I also like, thanks, but I like the little hint of the light, just with the light turning off. Like it's not mentioned or anything. It's just like they're all like, what happened? What happened? Something
Yeah.
floor 2, something bad happened. Someone fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, and it's yeah. So again,
And yeah,
the subtlety of this show is amazing. We've been talking about it since episode 2, but awesome.
very
And it does,
nuanced,
and it doesn't
as
have
Red
to
Drum
just
mentioned.
be like just a close up of something important in the scene. It's even like this, where it's just like it's something that happens, but it's very
Yeah.
impactful. If like it could be a great setup, but at the same time, even just like the fact that you can literally see them kill floor 2 without having to see it,
Yeah.
kind of dark.
Like that impact of like, just like, oh, the lights went out for a second and now they're back up.
Yeah,
And in your mind you're like, it's like they're leaving dots, and once you connect them, you see the entire, like once you they just put the dots there for you to connect and then see the full picture and then have the impact of that, where you're like, oh
yeah.
shit, is that what happened? And yeah, just like thinking like, oh my god, like those lights just going off for a second and people are like, hey, what the hell, like just the power went off, what's going on? But we as the audience connect their dots and are like, oh my god, they fried like 100 people at once. Like that's basically, that's I don't know if that's not genocide, but that's a massacre, I guess.
Mass murder,
Mass murder. There we go. That's the middle ground. I was,
murder, death,
no
kill,
pun intended.
as Demolition Man would say.
Oh, there's your second Demolition Man reference. Yeah. we're just firing. I was just about to say, we're just firing left, right with this episode. And now we get to Breakfast at Mon's. Oh no, not Breakfast at Mon's, but that comes later. But Mon, we see that Mon's cousin is Vel, and like, oh okay,
Dun dun
and
dun.
dun dun dun. Well. Who is this? It's Vel. Ta 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 da. And Vel's brought some dresses for Lita, and Lita
So
only
nice.
cares about dresses. And
Oh, come on.
Mothma's like,
Now
yeah,
you're assuming.
no, I'm
She
not
got a new
assuming that.
dress.
That's what they're telling you. That's what they're saying, because Mon Mothma's all into Mon Moth. So there's 3 female characters that they've shown in this one scene, and they're all very different from each other. Where Mon Mothma and Vel are into this great grand thing, but they both have separate motivations and separate feelings about how everything's happening. And then you see how Lita is being neglected by her mother, and what the implications of that is on how she's going to grow up to be.
What does it
I
have
think
to
that was
do with
very
her?
clear by the episode.
What does it have to do with her only being into dresses?
Because that's what they keep mentioning, like, hey, just be a spoiled girl, just act like a spoiled rich girl. And even Cinta mentions to Vel, maybe I'm just a rich girl running away from my family. And it's sort of like they're drawing parallels of that, maybe Vel grew up like Lida and then chose to do all this other hard stuff, which is what Mon Mothma's got herself into. And now they're like, well, we can talk about it now. I was going to mention later when they actually talk about it, but it's like when you see like just super rich privileged kids becoming activists, and you're like, are you just doing this just to like show people that you're not a rich spoiled person, or do you have actual personal motivations to do what's right and what's good in the world, and you're using your privilege as a way to as a means that instead of buying dresses, you're more interested in using all those means to do what's good and help people who are in much poorer situations than yourself.
My point was just like, she's just a kid in that scene. Let her be a kid.
Well, she's a teenager. She's a teenager.
Yeah, but her aunt that she hasn't seen in forever comes and brings her a
Oh
pretty
no,
dress. She's
I'm okay with whatever whatever they're showing. I'm just saying that they are trying to show the comparisons between three different types of female characters.
I definitely saw the difference between Mothma and Val, where it's like it's both two people fighting the Empire, but from two totally different angles, where they don't even know fully what each other are doing, but they both have the same mission and the same goal.
Right.
But the way they're doing it is completely opposite, and it feels like that's why I thought that Val is probably going to go, because I was like, that's the perfect inspiration. She's gonna see that like her cousin was right. Her cousin was doing the right thing, and what she's doing isn't enough. She needs to do more. You know.
And the funny
Also,
thing about the
sorry, did you notice that Val's suitcase is just a cooler?
No, I didn't. Is it really?
It's like they thought we wouldn't notice.
It's like the Star Wars version of that stick with a little cloth bag around it.
No, it was like a straight up just like one of those big plastic coolers you keep your beers in, just like in white. Yeah, there's like a dude holding it for her and shit. And it's like
I saw the dude holding some things, but I didn't know. That's hilarious.
It's straight up a cooler, a beer cooler. It was like, you know what?
That's awesome.
Most people would notice, so it's okay.
I didn't notice, so they got me.
Yeah, there you go.
But they didn't know who I was hosting the Red Show with.
They weren't ready.
I noticed facial expressions, and you notice all the other shit.
Hey, I'm a cooler aficionado.
All the situational stuff.
I was like, that was a 2008 model of course cooler.
Cool. I was gonna mention some beers, and I was like, "Hey, sponsor us beers." Yeah.
It was enter your sponsor cooler.
Yeah, exactly. That would be amazing. Hopefully by episode 12.
The cooler
fingers
business,
crossed, guys.
We're waiting for these coolers to come in and fucking let us.
I have a cooler right now with me. Just like that's where I keep my beers, because I don't want to keep going down to go to the fridge to pick.
It's like I would love to like have sponsors that I like care about, and I feel like I feel very strongly about coolers. They're very useful.
I do too. I agree on that. Coolers and ice packs. Because you put the ice packs instead of actual ice, and not have water inside the cooler.
Well, lost you for a second.
Did you hear what I said?
No, sorry, I lost you for a second.
Oh, okay. Are we still recording?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Podcasters, are you listening to this?
Are you still listening? Leave a comment if you're still listening at this point. We will
please just
like and pin it, and we will respond to it, and you will be our #1 fan for this week. And if you keep showing up,
actually,
even for the month, let's say, even if you do it for 2 podcasts, you get the whole month. And we will give you a shout out every episode. We'll say you're our #1 fan right now because you took the time to let us know how you feel. Even if you hate the show, at least
just tell us.
Yeah, there you go.
But don't rate us down.
Yeah, ideally.
just comment if you hate us. Just comment it.
Yeah.
But don't put a 1-star review.
No, what you do is you leave your criticism, and we will address it. And if you can fix it, you can leave us a rating afterwards. If you think that we deserve a low rating right now, we're still starting out. Give us a chance. Maybe you'll feel different in a little bit. No, just an idea.
I coagulate all those points. I don't think I used that word correctly.
Quagmire those.
But yeah. Also, another thing that Mon Mothma says, "Hey, I don't think your father is gonna like that dress," and she says, "My father lets me do whatever I want." And that goes back into our theme of parenting, and how you see parent is like a lazy parent, and he's literally spoiling his daughter where he's just like, whatever, you're being neglected by your mother, so I'll just let you do whatever. And
Ex-
that's what she's turning into, just
I
a rich
think
spoiled girl.
it was more showing again that like she's not there to be her mother. Parent is the
Mm,
parental figure in this. Even
right,
even if he's being like whatever, he doesn't care. You can wear whatever you
right.
want. That doesn't mean he's a bad parent, first of all. But also, second, of
Oh
all,
no, no,
I think
yeah,
it's like more implying the fact that like yeah, she's not really the parental. Like she doesn't take her serious like that.
right. I agree. Yeah. And we also hear Vel spewing out the exact same lines that Cinta told Vel about the rebellion comes first. And the way she's saying it, it's like it's her thoughts. And it took me back to how, like, when we were asking, like, is she just putting on a facade to look harder than she actually is? Because she's way more vulnerable in front of a person like Cinta, who she knows has had a way rougher life than her. But now that she knows that she's gone through harsher conditions in comparison to Mothma, where she's like trying to act like that, or is this who she is becoming? And we see why she's transitioning into a colder person.
Well, in relation to that, there was a thought I had about episode 6 actually, where
Hmm.
it was actually remember everybody's waiting for the plan to start and everybody's waiting on Val to make the
Yeah.
call, and she's the only one that was hesitating even though she was the
Yes.
one that's the leader. And it's because I think her problem is she cares too much about everybody, and like with
Hmm.
Cinta, but even with everybody else, she just it was like it was symbolic in the way of like we're about to do something big and this is going to be a
Yeah.
catalyst to everything else. But I think it was also trying to show that she realized in that moment is like we're sending in 4 or 5 people against an entire garrison right now, and like is
Right.
this like while everybody else is like this is what we're doing. Like I think
Right.
you're onto something that she is like Cinta said, she is a spoiled rich girl that ran away from home trying to fight a rebellion, which I thought was a actually now looking back is a really cool setup where we were thinking, is it Luthen? Like, what's the
Hmm.
rich family? And then it's like, oh, it's
Yeah.
Mothma's
And
family.
and
When
and
did
and
she
two
ask
things
Val for
about
money?
that. But the two things about that, one was like the also when she's hesitating to call the like start the plan, the irony of the phrase "our fearless leader," where
Yeah,
within this, even though she's the leader, she's the only one showing the fear out of all the other people. And then the second thing was where is that, is she doing all this because she truly believes in the rebellion, or is she just trying to remove the perception of her being a rich spoiled girl? And when she comes into contact with someone like Lida, it's like she keeps getting reminded of who she is actually at the surface. And so she tries even harder. It's like you overcompensate to look even harder, right? Where she could be, where out of all the people that we've seen her with, that she's always wanted to have an emotional connection with, Cinta and all the other people, then Luthen, she was disappointed in. Mon Mothma is the first person who she can actually have an emotional connection with. And she tries her best to look as cold and hard as possible, something atypical to what we've seen her so far. So it's almost like, is she actually just trying to just remove the perception, or does she really believe in the rebellion?
my right now my prediction would be it's probably a bit of both. Where like it probably
Yeah,
started with her being not wanting to be labeled as the rich spoiled girl,
right.
but I think she probably also I don't know. Actually, you're right. Like we still like she says like Mothma specifically says like what does he have you doing? And she's like,
Mm,
who? But like we know,
who?
like they're trying to keep them secret and stuff. But the way that she says it, it's kind of like, like it's not what have you been up to, or like
Yeah,
she asked that, but like she's more specifically, what is Luthen making you do this time?
right.
Like what crazy shit have you been doing for this old kook? Where like
And
yeah,
I think she may have seen changes. Like she obviously knows Vel from
yeah,
before Aldani, so maybe she's seen a change in her, and her saying all these lines. Well, we as an audience know that it's actually more from Cinta
yeah.
rather than Luthen, and maybe the neglect of Luthen and the sort of the dismissive, disapproval parenting thing, where it's similar to what Cyril goes through with his mother, where she's always disapproving of everything. So it kind of makes him even more dependent on her. So I don't know. I like that all these characters are so nuanced and fleshed out, and it's like we're always questioning along with the people themselves. Like it's like us in real life, where we're always like, am I doing this because I really want to do this, or am I doing this because I have a feeling to prove myself to someone, or is it because I'm trying to escape something else? There's
Yeah.
always these questions that we ask ourselves in life, and I really like that. Even in this grand scheme of things, where like we're fighting for the rebellion and we're fighting for the good and against the dark side, there's these people who have these personal motivations and questions about themselves and their own reasoning behind getting into all this crazy nonsense.
It goes back to the theme I brought up last episode about everybody being in a cage in their own prison,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know, and that's Val's prison, is saying where her prison is more the stigma and the family that she's
Right.
still in the process of breaking out as well, and like everybody is still in a cage, like through
Yeah.
everybody we saw this episode is still trying to break out. So I really think
Yeah.
like next episode is going to be this big catalyst
Is
moment
she
again where everybody gets to break free finally.
is she rebelling against the empire, or is she rebelling against her perception?
Yeah, against the
Dun
parents.
dun 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 dun. Yeah. So yeah, and now we get to Cassian trying to get some information out of a boy circus in their bunkers, and that's where he starts screaming, "Nobody's listening! What do you? Why won't you just tell me how many guards there are?" I really like the scene just because this is the first time where you just see Circus being one of the inmates.
Yeah.
Like he's still sort of there in charge of their whole line, their whole team, but he's now you just see him as like one of the inmates, and he's just like, dude, just stop asking me all these questions. I don't know what you're talking about. Walls, are if you're listening, I don't know what this guy's talking about. You know, he's so like ingrained into the whole prison thing, where Cassian's like, dude, what are you, crazy? You think the walls are listening? Dude, they're not. And yeah, and that goes into your theme of him just turning off the lights and just turning over to the other side, just putting it facing his back towards Cass.
And again, brilliantly acted,
Turning
because
his back on you,
I
sorry.
could already tell that like Andor was finding cracks in his belief, where the way Andy Serkis was like speaking back was more like you're saying he was more worried about somebody hearing it, but it wasn't that he didn't
Right.
want to hear it fully. Like there was like a thing of he's like, you're going to get me into trouble, but
Right.
I'm listening kind of, but I'm gonna just shut it down now in case someone is listening and make
Yeah,
it seem like,
exactly.
I'm not part of this.
I'm not part of this, guys. It's
Yeah.
like me talking to you on our live. I shouldn't have brought that up. I'm not a part of this, guys. If you're listening, I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, now we get to the ISB meeting, and I thought there was a thing which I missed the first time, and I noticed in the second thing, where there's a small little shot of the bureau from the outside at night, and they have like the logo outside the bureau, and it's just oh, it's okay, it's nighttime, and this is what it looks like. I was like, okay, cool, that's kind of cool. And we see Dedra making her Aldani connection, and finally it brings up the assistant brings up a very cool little detail that we talked about, and he's like, he had shaved, and I was like, hey, look at that. something something that happened like 20 episodes earlier, it feels like. Such a
Inadvertently,
tiny
Andor
little
made it
detail.
worse by shaving.
Yes,
He
but
thought
by
he was
looking
trying to
sexier.
hide, but he just made it more obvious.
Andor was trying to look sexier, and he did, but it gave him away. And I don't know why Cyril noticed that, but he did.
It wasn't Cyril. It was Jake Gyllenhaal.
No, but he's reading out Cyril's
Oh,
question.
okay.
I think that's how he says question, and he speaks, and then he gives Cyril's answer, where
Yeah, okay.
he says Cassian was had shaved, just like a lot of the guards at the garrison
No, but
noticed all the other people had shaved as
that
well.
was
I
from
think
Cyril, not from Bix. I thought that was because he met Bix, and that's how they found out that he came back with money.
Right. Okay, my bad. I'm sorry, guys. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
I think you're right. But yeah, so I like that tiny little detail is what gave him away and connected him to the other people. Where even we questioned, we're like in episode 4, where he's like, hey, look, he's shaving. Okay, wow, cool, whatever. And then in his hologram, he's shaved.
Yeah.
So yeah,
We should have known that. And I don't know if it's in
I'm
this.
sorry,
I think
guys.
it's in the same scene, but we cut back to it later. But this is where Dedra smiles when she's talking about using Andor's mother as bait, Marva.
Yes.
That's where like I was thinking like the way that she smiles about her using her as bait kind of shows that like she's enjoying this. Like this goes beyond of like, oh, I'm like they're praising me. It's like, no, I'm a fucking G at this. I got a fucking bait for this guy.
And my feelings on that is that she's like feeling herself of like doing an amazing job, where it's almost like it goes back to the parent child or like student teacher relationship dynamic, where it's almost like she's the A+ student and she's trying to be like the teacher's pet, and she's got the major on her side, and now she's trying so hard to get his approval. And because in the beginning when they first meet, we see her like when the major is reprimanding her, she like when he leaves, she gives like this sigh of relief, like, oh my god, like I just got reamed by the major. And now over the course, she's got him on her side by just doing a good job, and she's like proud of herself, like, hey, look, I made my teacher proud. And I think that's what a lot of these people are trying to do, where Vel is trying to make Luthen proud, and Cyril, even though he doesn't want to, but he's trying to make his mother proud. And yeah. And I thought that was pretty interesting. And yeah, so now we get back to finally a Circus just like cracking. He's pulling his hair back and he's like, just another day, just another shift. And and he's
We will
like,
be calm. He's very much like, everybody calm down and we will be in line. And then there's that shift of like, until we find out what the hell's going on. Yes. It's like, oh God, bro, your hair is going all kinds of crazy now.
Yeah.
And like I was saying, the whole time his ear is like flipped forward and shit. And I was like, all right. Go, Circus. You make it look more believable. You know, that's, you know.
It would have looked, if it was perfect, it would have looked weird. But now he's just like in like this state of like confusion. And for the first time, he's like super in charge and very methodical. And hey, you do this, you do this, you do this. It's like, I'm losing control, guys. I don't know what's going on. And I like that Cass sort of reeled him back in. And he's like, hey, like get a hold of yourself. If you don't come, everyone else is going to start panicking as well.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, you're right, you're right, Cass. You know, even though you're a new guy, you know, I can see you're experienced in all this, and okay. And then he calms down and he gets everybody to calm down. He's like, okay. We see him sort of like boiling over, and it's like, okay, it's just about to exit the volcano, you know. the lava is just about to exit the volcano. And yeah, he gets everybody back in line, and then we get to again one of my favorite scenes with Cyril back back with his mother. And she's just guilt tripping him about every single thing, and she's snooping on him like he's a teenager, and he's like, I have ways of finding out that you're snooping on me. And it's like, dude, what the hell is going on with your relationship? Like you're like a 12-year-old hiding
that box is full of like drawings of Dedra.
Yes, exactly. With Dedra with giant tits, I think.
Next day she's like, who is this lady? Why you keep drawing
Dedra
her?
in like anime style like tits. You know?
Also, Cyril is back eating corn flakes.
Mm-hmm. I thought they were more like fruity pebbles.
But they're corn flakes.
Oh, cornflakes. Oh, that's pretty good. That's the one. I'll give you a golf clap for that. I'll
There you
give you a
go.
golf clap for that. That's good. I didn't notice that. That's amazing. That's our short right there. Podcast listeners, go check that out. That's great. We have our episode title as well.
Cornflakes.
Cornflakes. That is amazing. Okay, I'll give it. Yeah, and I totally forgot that you mentioned to me earlier that you're gonna drop something in there. So I usually hate spoilers, but I'm glad that this I completely forgot. It's one of those. It's like a Cassian shaving detail. Where
Right?
it's like I totally forgot that he shaved, and now it's like this amazing thing. Wow.
You never know, man. You gotta be ready. Shoot it.
Oof.
Just when you least expect it.
You definitely shot first there. That's amazing. I'll give you 11 out of 10 for that.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
amazing.
Like I said, it was my best Shabz impression of
That's
after
amazing.
Andor.
And his assembly line.
But and so trivia time again. The cornflakes. I was
Amazing.
when we first saw them, I was like, I want them. Turns out you can already get them. They're just like a special
Oh, really?
version. They're like a special version of Tricks. I forgot now which
Oh.
specific one, but like if you look up Andor Tricks,
Maybe they're called space tricks.
they're what?
Space tricks?
Oh no! Well, it's like they existed before Andor specifically,
Oh, okay.
but like they
I
have
thought
the
it was
same
like
little
a-
balls, so you can cosplay as Cyril and play it with the little Tricks balls. If you just get
Halloween 2023, guys.
Right?
I wish this episode
Yeah.
came out like 4 weeks ago,
that, right?
but it came out now. It's given me enough time to trim my hair, as Edie puts it. She keeps and I keep getting hammered and nagged about cutting my hair. That's amazing. Okay, Halloween 2023, guys. I hope red chill is still a thing.
Right? We will come with a bowl of Tricks, and whoever will
yes.
know, they'll be the real ones.
Exactly. It'll be the first guy who comments about feedback. That'll be our super fan. Like how all these like shows have like first we feast has a super fan,
Yeah.
and the dude Sean Evans brought him on once. We're gonna have a super fan like that, hopefully.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll talk to them.
That's amazing. Yes, that's amazing. I always wanted to cosplay as Joker just because I have long hair, but I wanted to lose some weight first because he's like really thin, and I never got to do that in 3 years. But now I get to do a Star Wars Joker, which we'll get to later, which is my actual favorite scene of the show, and I want to get to that and talk about it once we get to that. But yeah, that's amazing. I still can't get over cornflakes. That's so great. I can't think of anything else now. I can't believe I didn't think of it, and I'm actually glad I didn't because it's actually way better. Like getting dropped on me like that out of nowhere.
The best is that
This
you didn't
added,
even
like-
notice at first.
Yeah, that's why I was like, yeah, it's like it's Fruity Pebbles, right? I guess it's ironic because Pebbles is from the Stone Age, and we're in Star Wars, and we're in space,
Sure.
right?
What?
Fruity Pebbles.
What? I didn't get the connection, but I'll trust you on that one.
The like Fruity Pebbles is like Flintstones type of thing. It's
Okay.
from the Stone
So
Age.
go
And
from
then
Flintstones to space.
It's ironic that it's so far back in time, but now it's being used in a galaxy far away. A time.
long
Wait, a time long time ago? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, I thought it was, okay. Edit that completely out. We will stick with cornflakes. I'm allowed one dumb rant per pod, I think.
I was like fully there. I wasn't even criticizing it. I was just like I just didn't follow fully from one point to the next. I was like, just walk me through
I
it
actually
once.
didn't think about it earlier. I started like just improvising, like my previous rant in my episode 2, in episode 8 about Cyril. But yeah, okay. So Cyril's having cornflakes with his blue milk, and his mom's just like treating him like a child, guilt tripping him about everything, and then he's like, I've been promoted. And one small little funny thing was that not only is she treating him like a child, his rebellion against her is also very childlike, like his tantrum where he just puts the bowl in front of him and starts making those slurping noises to drown out her voices. And
Yeah.
there you go, right?
Nice.
Yeah. And yeah, I thought that was funny. But then he mentions, he's like, oh, by the way, I've been promoted. And you see her like, I'm so happy. And Uncle
Jack Harlow is gonna be
Jarlo.
so happy.
Harlow.
Gonna
I
do-
called him Jarlo. You called him Carlo. It's Harlow.
Jack Harlow, he's gonna drop a beat
Jack
on you.
Harlow. Mm-hmm. I'm waiting to hear that hip hop version of the Empire. A diss track.
So is that lady? Anyways, never mind. I don't know
What's
enough
Edie?
to ask this question.
Oh, go ahead.
I from what I know from movies and TV shows, is that mother supposed to be Jewish? Are they confirming Judaism in Star Wars?
Or like she's Orthodox Jewish.
I don't know. It's just like reminds me of like that's why we brought up George Costanza's mother and like
Right. Her accent is very much like old school New York Jewish accent.
Yeah.
From what I've seen in TV show, guys, this is not me like this is not my opinion on it in terms of like this is what I think, but from what we've seen in shows and movies and stuff.
I feel like religion in the Star Wars universe hasn't been touched on so much, but like Jedi is kind of a religion. We had in Rogue One the guy who believed in the Force, kind of like a religion, but
The Asian, the martial arts guy.
the freaking Donnie Yang.
What's his name? Donnie Yen.
Yeah.
Donnie Yen.
Yeah. Ip
Let's
Man.
not be racist.
But yeah, so we still don't know. Like,
They touched on religion in not Force Awakens, the New Hope, where I think one of the Imperial officers tell Darth Vader, "Your faith in that old religion is really dumb," and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
and they're referring to the Force and the Jedi and stuff as
that's what I'm saying. We know this
ancient religion.
Yeah, we know the Sith and the Jedi. Like that's basically a religion. But like, does alien believe in God?
And do they have other types of religions?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe.
This would be the show to explore it, just because Rogue One already started asking this question.
Right. And I mean, they do have the Temple of the Jedis and all that stuff. So clearly, but maybe it's not based. Maybe the religion aspect of it is not based on God itself, but maybe just like Force. I don't know. Like you said, they haven't touched on it so much.
No, yeah. My point was more that like we know that as a religion, but like we were saying, are there other religions? Like, are there other things they believe in, where not everybody believes in the Jedi. Not everybody knows about the Jedi by the end when they're all in hiding. It's been so long that like people start forgetting about them. So what do they believe in? Do they just think there's something greater than them? Do you just think there's a higher force? Maybe it's not the force for them, but they just think there's something bigger than them. Or is there like a full-on religion where there's like a book telling them about God? Or do they just randomly believe that there's a guy in the sky that made them? Like, I don't know. That's something they haven't explored yet. It would be cool to, now that we're getting into more politics, be dope to now get into. Not that I care about religion so much. It's just like I like them fleshing out the world, and I feel like since there is a religion very at the very core of Star Wars, it'd be interesting to show other sides of it.
Yeah, and plus like it's not even like so much about the thing about like you said, like it's not like you're interested in like religion and all that stuff, but it's more like a very fascinating question that you brought up, where what do they believe in?
Yeah.
Where they are in space, because right now we believe a lot of the stuff we believe is just based on who we are as people and what our history is on Earth, where we're not even sure whether beings on other planets exists or other than Earth. But in a universe where now it's known and established that all these other planets and all these other species and alien races exist, and there's all these kind of different kinds of sentient beings, droids and all this. So what would they believe in? That's true, actually.
Yeah. And with the sequel trilogy, them putting the whole idea of Rey searching where she came from by the end of it. Like that was her internal struggle of like when she goes into the cave and she's trying to figure out like that's a not a full on existential crisis, but like it's okay to like you could assume if someone questions family wise where they came from, someone would at some point also be like, why are we here? Like what
Right.
is the purpose of all of this? Like why am I in Tatooine in the dirt, like living like shit in a cave? Is there a purpose to this? Did someone out there decide for me to live in the shitty cave? Or like is there this like I feel like these questions no yeah, I don't know. They're aliens, so maybe they don't come up, but I feel like there is enough human like characters in this
Yeah.
universe that somebody or the other would be just like, yo, what is the
And
purpose of all of this?
well, purpose has is a theme that has been brought up a lot of times. Not a greater purpose, like in terms of, well, I guess that's a theme that could go there, because they've talked about, and I've mentioned a lot of times where people searching, like Cyril is searching for purpose, and Cass is purposeless. That's why he's always moving from place to place, and Luthen offers him purpose. Vel is in search of purpose. So purpose is there's personal purpose, and then the greater purpose of doing things for the greater good, and then the next greater purpose would be is what you're talking about. And like you said, like I mean, the Force exists. A Jedi might question like, hey, how come I'm a Jedi? Like, why was I created this way? And I mean, midi-chlorians is something that I guess is established, but also it's established that the Force is like an energy that surrounds you. So I think it's very plausible that people should be questioning where they came from, and what all exists in the supernatural realm, even though they have physical knowledge of all these different races and planets and all these things, but there could still be something outside the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point that you bring up.
Yeah, I hope they explore it at a certain point.
Yeah. Yeah. I would be very interested in that, because that's a kind of topic that I would like. That's something that I feel like having it be a part of Star Wars is what lends it to being such a fascinating topic,
Yeah.
because a topic like that has been dealt with in a lot of different media, but in a universe where all these things are established, I think being Star Wars would actually be beneficial to exploring a topic like that, where it's not like, oh, here's a topic that's in Star Wars. It's like, because it's in Star Wars, where can this topic go? So,
I mean,
that's also a really
that
cool
was a
point.
little bit of the point I made last episode where you were thinking that it was too much social commentary, but I
Right.
didn't get it that time because I felt like it was social commentary on Star Wars, like specifically showing what society is like in this world, where
Right.
even if like they're riffing off our world, which is, of course,
Right.
is going to happen, but it still felt more like because it's in Star Wars, it is this certain specific way.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's cool, man. I hope they do. I hope they do explore that,
Yeah.
because the show has shown the tendency to explore those kind of things, and actually, or at least bring it into question.
Yeah.
At least address those issues. Yeah. But yeah. So we go from Cyril's scene to now we're back at the assembly line, and we again see Olaf not doing great. And and now we
Blue.
get to breakfast. Yeah. Uli.
Lee, my boy Blue.
Uli. My boy Uli Blue.
Bluely.
Bluely. I was just gonna say that too. That could be an alternate title to the episode. But I think cornflakes is way better. But yeah. And now we get to breakfast at Mons again, and we see a little bit of banter between Perrin and Vel about, hey, have you found yourself a husband? And we see Mon Mothma is like very impressed with how Vel's able to give it right back to the boys, and she's not gonna take no shit. And I was like, oh, that's no, okay, cool. And all the other stuff we've sort of discussed already, but there has but so two lines. I think Perrin's already done this in episode 4 where he's a little self-referential, and I think this was again the show being a little self-referential towards my reaction or the audience. I don't know if the audience had the same reaction where he's like um he's joking about Vel. He's like, well, at least you've not gone political. And I was like, yeah, thank God. And then he says, why do all the interesting people end up becoming tedious? I was like, yeah, parent, you're totally right about that. That's what the last episode started to feel like, where I was very interested in the scenes at Mon Mothma's breakfast table, but now they're just starting to become a little too political and a little too tedious. I was like, okay, they reeled it back in, they joked about it, and now we move on from it, I hope. And yeah, I think that's kind of cool.
I do hope in a bit that eventually Mothma gets a scene change where it's interesting to show how it all started. But yeah, I hope with her meeting this dude that we're gonna get to, her meeting the criminal. It seems like
yes,
that be like hopefully that will change it a bit, because yeah, it's starting to become a little bit all right. We have these 4 locations that we can do something with her: the car, her house, a party,
art dealership, Luthen's art dealership.
Yeah,
that's it. The car, the house, and the Luthen's art dealership is the 3 places that we see her in.
And the party. That wasn't at her house.
Well, the party happens at her house, and
it was her house. I didn't realize that was a house. That's a huge fucking house.
Yes,
there's like so many fucking people. It look like there's droids everywhere and shit. Like even this time when she's sitting down with her school friend, it's like it looks like a fucking airport lobby or some shit. Yeah. Like that's a house.
Yeah, that's their house. And to disappoint you, she does say that, you mean meet that guy over here? Are you kidding me? So the meeting's going to take place most likely in her home. So I'm sorry to break that to you, but
well, so
you never know.
When Val leaves and there's that shot of the 2 arches and
I wanted to mention that.
It looks so fucking dope. So I'm like, I guess they put so much work into the set. I get it. They're like, come on, does she have to go meet the guy? Can't she come? Like, we built this already. Look at the shot. Exactly. Look how pretty the shot is. You don't want to do this one more time? Come on, we can do season 2. Season 2, we can go somewhere else.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that's the only shot that I actually took a note of, where I'm like, that shot is so amazing, where it just stood out to me so many times. And that's my second Kubrick reference, where I don't know if you noticed, but it had elements of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Where I don't know if you remember that famous scene of like the inside the spaceship of like that tubular, you know, the arches and
when he's jogging around it.
Yes, no. But before that, when he's walking, or even when the camera is just zooming in slowly, and I think when they zoom out in this scene, when you see 2 arches and her standing in the middle, I thought that was like a clear reference to 2001.
What?
Where it's not like they're trying to make it look exactly like that, but have elements of that in there. And some of the camera work resembles that.
What I was trying to figure out was, it seemed almost metaphorical. And I was trying to see what's the metaphor of, like, it could be, at first I was like, if it was 2 walls, it's like she's kind of trapped. But I think it was more about Val exited the front door going on her journey to fight for the rebellion, while Val's is in the back, and she's looking out to where she should be going in the future. She should be walking where Val is going, but the camera is going through the other arch, which she has to walk through again to go back into her fight for the rebellion, which is not the correct way. And maybe that's her in that moment, the first time where she thinks that, like, maybe I should be going where Val is going, you know.
That's a really cool observation, actually. Yeah, because the camera is sort of pulling her into the direction of where she's now sort of forced to go back into the direction she's supposed to take, even though she might be longing to go in the direction of Vel. Yeah,
because it's really like back to camera, and as the camera zooms out, it slowly reveals the other arch. So it's kind of like at first you're looking with her into where Val's going, but then it
Yeah, the
becomes
main
of
door.
you looking at her back through the door that she will have to go through. I don't know.
And it's a very small little thing where she sort of slinks her head at the end of it.
Yeah.
So she seems kind of, you see these small little changes in her body language in a lot of the scenes that they've shown her, where she's pretending to be smiling and happy, and then it cuts back to her where she's walking away from everyone and she starts frowning again, or the smile goes away. So yeah,
It's almost like it's almost similar to what Andy Serkis is going through, just in a longer stretch. But she is like what she's doing. She thinks is what she needs to do. This is the way to do it.
right.
But like Luthen is already showing that, like, like we need other ways to get money, and like eventually you're gonna get busted, and we can't just rely
Right.
on you. So but she's like, this is what she needs to do, and like she thinks this is what is going to get her to the point where she wants to go. But in actuality, it's completely wrong for her, and there's going to be a
Her
moment where she realizes that she wakes up the way that Andy Serkis is.
hmm. Well, I was actually gonna say her fate is pulling her back towards that thing, but I think it's the opposite actually, where I think her fate is
Yeah.
going towards where Vel is going, and her life right now, it's like even though she longs to get out of that prison, her life is again pulling her, and it's like sucking. It's like that Godfather line where every time I think they pull me back in,
Yeah.
and it's that's very cool visual storytelling, guys.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, that's super cool observation. And yeah, and this actually just I had one small question about this. When we get to see that Vel is known as Vel, why wasn't she using like an alias for her Aldani thing?
True.
Why was she just known as Vel?
Yeah, because Luthen gave Andor
We well we
no,
yeah, and
no,
we don't
no.
know what Luthen's
He
actual name
asked.
is.
Yeah, but he asked. I
What's
guess.
your name? You pick a name.
Yeah, pick a name.
And why would they have their actual names
True.
when they're with just a bunch of random people trying to pull off a heist against the Empire, not knowing who's this? They have guys like Skeen in there.
Yeah.
She's just known as Vel, and she's from Chandrila. She's related to a Senate. Wouldn't people know? Hey,
Hmm?
hey! We heard someone say Vel. Maybe that's your
Exactly.
person.
Yeah, you're totally right. She should have been
I was
using
like,
a
what the hell?
code name or something.
Yeah, I was expecting her to use like a different name when she's with Mon Mothma or something like that.
She's
But
like,
it's like, hey,
it's like it's a vowel with two L. She
yeah,
doesn't have two L's. What you
it's
talking
actually
about,
well.
right?
It's Vel with a W. Okay, guys.
So we spell it completely different. It's like
Yeah.
saying Tim and Tim with two M's is
And
exactly
Tim,
the same.
yeah.
They're completely different,
Okay, there's Tim, and then there's Tim.
right? Absolutely, completely different. I don't know
The
how you could mistake me for that
the
person.
guards when they were being taken hostage by during the Aldani attack at the garrison noticed that some people had shaved,
Right?
but they wouldn't notice. Oh my God, Tamarin! No, Vel. I'm pretty sure they don't say all these things, but I'm just surprised that and a name that's so easy to remember. It's so short. It's so easy to remember. Everybody says we're looking for Cassian, and Cassian's known as Clem, but also Keith. And it's like, Vel, she's from Chandrila, one of the super famous, super rich people, and she's Mon Mothma's cousin, not even like her niece or something where she's like, no, not many people know of her. He's like, yeah. He's like, I hope maybe it didn't matter, I guess. Maybe Luthen thought that she wouldn't survive, so I guess it doesn't matter. But it just seems kind of like a overlook, maybe. Not a plot hole, but a overlook by the writers.
Maybe she's using a code word, a code name with Mothma's daughter when she's around. She's like, "Don't call me by my real name. I don't trust that little
Yeah.
kid. Her in
You
her little
bitch."
dresses."
I was gonna end up like you. Thank God I didn't. Oh my God. But yeah, let's see. Maybe it doesn't matter, but Yeah, it was just weird. And so now we see a tiny little scene of Bix just super distraught in her little interrogation room, and we get to my favorite scene, by the way, which is I've made this connection many times. Okay, and now there's sort of pulled the scene right out of the movie Joker, where I've made Joker connections to Cyril earlier, where not exact connections, but sort of like that same vibe of just him being stuck in this weird place in his head, along with his weird mom, and now he's just gone off the deep end, where he's just starting to take a leap into a neurosis, and he's just like unraveling, meant psychologically, and he just starts. He's stalking Mira, and he's extremely confident in how he's approaching her and how he's sort of almost assaulting her, and it's kind of weird that Dedra, I keep saying Mira again. Dedra isn't. She keeps warning him, but it's not clear why she wouldn't just sort of turn him in, and you maybe think that maybe she's also she has a weird infatuation towards him as well. But
I called it 4 or 5 episodes ago. They're going to bang. It's going to be weird and awkward.
Yes.
We don't want to see any of it, but we won't be able to look away.
It's going to be the most methodical sexual intercourse that we'll see, I think.
Honestly, I could see Dedra being like a dominatrix style. Like
dominatrix,
You come over and then she's like, follow me into the back room. And it's just like a wall full of shit. And she's like, all right, Cyril.
And Cyril's clearly inexperienced, as you can tell.
He looks
him a
like
virgin, but he's inexperienced.
He would love to be submissive to a dominatrix.
Yes.
Like you can tell. Also, out of all the paths that Cyril could go down in the show, did not expect him to become a simp. Out of all the things, right? Like,
and this is why I mentioned why I said I hope they don't make him whatever, was because I hope they don't attribute those traits to just that kind of to a stereotypical personality where it's okay for him to be like this, but I hope they don't attribute it to it's because he's this, but he's not. But yeah,
I mean, this is kind of bad speaking badly about simps. What about all the simps out there? They're being now what? He's just like this because he's a simp.
Yeah, I don't care about simps. Okay. I don't really give a shit about simps, dude.
We're not ready for them yet.
Yeah, but
simp rights.
but yeah,
2030.
2030, dude. 2023, Halloween. Oh my god, dude. But yeah, I loved the fact that he's actually stalking her, and it goes back to my thing where he's just searching for purpose, and he's searching for two things. He longs for purpose, some significance, and an actual emotional connection to another human being. All of which it's almost like you said, a simp, in a way where it's like if a hot girl just is nice to them, they immediately fall in love with her and they start fantasizing about this entire life together with them, which is what I think she brought him in for questioning, and he calls it a conversation, and she's like, that was an interrogation,
right?
or an inquisition. She's like, our conversation. She's like, whoa, dude.
Yeah.
That wasn't a conversation. We weren't like on a date or anything, but he thinks that's what it is.
You know what it reminded me a little bit of? It's like Anchorman 2 when Steve Carell and Kristen Wiig start having a romance, and it's super awkward. They both don't know what they're doing. That's basically what this was, but the Star Wars version of it, where she's kind of like
this would be like if not Kristen Wiig. This would be like if Christina Applegate ended up having sex with like Steve Carell.
But it's
Anchorman.
But it's more like you can kind of tell that he is totally smitten by her, and in a way he is inadvertently, maybe not even on purpose, like he is flirting with her, like, and he grabs her and he has some feeling, right? But it also feels like no one has ever done that to Dedra, and she's so taken off guard because she's like, What? Because half of her is probably like, oh shit, is this what this feels like?
Yeah.
But the other half is like, no, but I got my job to
Good.
do and shit. And like,
Yes.
yeah.
It's
She
it's it's the cliche trope of the sorry. Go on.
it is Andy Serkis' story again, where she thinks she has to go this path. Turns out she should be banging Cyril. And that's her
Yes.
revelation. She's going to get out of this mental prison where she's in the prison of the imperial idea. And Cyril is in the prison of his mother and the simp life, which he's going to break out when he finally evolves from simp to banging Dedra.
Banging Dedra. Do you think there could be a love triangle between Dedra, Simple, Cyril Simp, and Jake Gyllenhaal, her assistant?
At least
Because he's impressing her with his work, and it's like it's kind of like Cyril is like the weird emotional connection, and Jake Gyllenhaal is like the rational practical, where it's like, hey, we are so together on our goals and our vision, and it's the cliche trope of what I was gonna mention, that it's the A+ student who only focuses on her studies, and
it's
she's the
called
nerd, and now she's smitten by the first kind of attention that she gets in the same way Cyril does.
it's called the work husband, is what you're trying to say. But no, I think what they need to do with him is he like Tim with 2M style sees Dedra kissing Cyril, but he doesn't go crazy. All he does is he has his clipboard and he just throws it on the ground and he's just like, damn, and he walks away. Just like a little,
And he
like,
goes and joins. He goes and tells on her to Blevin. He switches sides.
yeah.
He gets dirt on her. And he's like, dude, Blevin, I gotta tell you. And then we start questioning his motives. Is he really into this because he's trying to do a good job for the bureau, or is it because he's jealous? Man, this show is making us question everything.
Everything. Forget everything you know.
Everything. Yes. But yeah. I just wish he didn't mention the word deranged in his little flirtatious thing that he's going, because that's too on the nose. I feel like it's like Joker having damaged written on his thing. I'm like, we get you're deranged from your actions and the things that you're saying. You don't have to throw that in there, but it's very, very, very minute of a detail to have that kind of a on the nose effect. Yeah, but I loved it. I loved the actor, man. Like, so far, everything that he's supposed to portray, he's able to, like, just from his facial expression, he's just like, you can see him, like Andy Serkis, like you can see it in his eyes, where he's just like, oh my god, I'm in love, and I don't know what's happening, and I have a purpose, and now I'm promoted, and he just doesn't know what to do and how to handle himself, and yeah, he's crossing boundaries that he shouldn't be crossing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, and also that was in the same place that's now in the daytime. It's outside the bureau, where you see that hologram logo in the center. So
and very creepy that he's been there for days waiting, hoping he
yes,
sees it.
he's been stalking her for days, dude. That's just the same way the Joker was stalking that black chick when she goes to school and her office and stuff.
It's like he's telling his mom that like his shift starts at 7, even though it starts at 9. He just sits there eating nuts.
And she even mentioned that she like you're leaving early and you're coming home late, and he's like, oh, I've been promoted. And we're like, oh wow, good for you. You're really into your work. And it's like, oh no. Before and after work, he goes and stalks this lady, and it's like, oh dear Lord, what the hell? And you're right. It'll be hilarious once we see that his mom. We should have cut back to Edie, like with photos of like drawing Dedra,
like a really sticky box, and she's just like, what the hell?
Like, what is all this? And it's like Jonah Hill in Superbad drawing dicks everywhere. It's like you just see this blonde Ellen DeGeneres with like giant titties. I really want to see that scene now. It would be amazing. It would be the perfect arc. I don't even care what they do with Cyril after that.
When the show is over, if it's not in the show, they need to release like a bonus like scene. Even if they need to go back in and shoot it real quick, it's just like it needs to be there.
Well, we'll do it. If we'll just animate it.
We will track down the actress and we will get her to say the line, and just perform it in front of the green screen, and we will just put her in there. We'll have the red chill cut of Andor. Everything's the same amazing. Except that one scene.
Except for that one scene. That would be amazing. That would be my perfect
that'd be great. You make like a special edition. You change one single thing, but you don't tell anybody. And the people who the first people who watch it who don't know, the whole time they'll be sitting there and they're like, "Was that different? I don't remember that scene. You think that's new?" And then to get to the scene where she has a sticky box of naked pictures of Dedra sticking together, and they're like, "Oh, I think I think that. I guess that's the special edition."
Tony Gilroy wanted to have that.
The funny thing is, if that's the one where like suddenly they start believing, like, "Oh shit, you know what? I didn't." That was such a weird scene. I remember how weird it was when I saw it the first time. I had forgotten about this one.
April Fool's Day 2023.
Wait for 2023, bro. It's going to be big.
Guys. Oof. Red Chill is going to pop off. Finally. Oh my God. But yeah. So she sort of warns him and she's like, "Hey, you stop doing this to me. Okay. And I'll put you back in." And she sort of walks off. And then she gets informed by Jake Gyllenhaal that they've caught a rebel pilot. She's like, "Oh my God." And then we get back to Mon Mothma talking with Tay Zonde, or whatever his name is. And it's funny that you mentioned this to me. This was not on the pod, but it's when we were discussing the first time Tay was introduced. And they bring it back where they're like, where Lida mentions, she's like, "Oh, her old boyfriend." And Perrin's like, "Old is the key word." And and I mentioned this to you where I was like, "Hey, he's kind of like a hot guy for like an older male, right?" And it's like,
like I said, they're gonna bang too. It's all gonna, the climax of Andor is that everybody's going to climax.
Everybody's going to bang each other, and then it's everyone's just gonna explode.
I don't know if you ever seen oh man, I just had it on the tip of my tongue. There's a Wachowski show where they're all connected through like the others, like there's people around the world and they're connected through feelings and they can like access each other's things. But it's actually a pretty good show. But there is a bunch of scenes where it's like 8 people. It's something 8. My head switched to Super 8. But like these 8 people have a lot of orgies in their mind. And they're very long, like kind of like Matrix 2 rave scene, Neo and Trinity making banging out type, like way too, where it's like, it's so long that at first you're like, "Oh, this is cool." Then you're like, "Why is this still going on?" Then you're like, "This is weird." Going back to like, "All right, whatever." They do that a lot with orgy scenes. And my whole point of this is that should be the finale of Andor. All these people just have a giant orgy. And they're like, give peace a chance.
I was gonna mention, my approach to that was that, you know how Rogue One ends, right? Where they see this explosion coming, so they sort of have like this emotional embrace. It would be amazing where Andor ends like, "Hey guys, there's gonna be like this nuclear blast sort of a thing, so maybe we should just have sex with each other," and they end up having an orgy while the blast comes towards them.
I just think in Rogue One where like the Imperials, they're looking at the beach and they're like, yeah, we got these rebels, and they're like looking and they're like, "Wait a minute, what, sir, please come here." I'm not sure what I'm saying.
Sex with each other.
It's a bunch of asses and dicks and tits and just like rubbing against each other. I don't know what these rebels are doing. The whole beach is just bodies. It's just like Imperials and rebels. Everybody's just like, "Fuck it."
Yeah. Let's just bang. Let's just get all our sexual frustrations out.
They're all like the guy in Pompeii. They get vulcanized while they're jacking off. And like just ejaculating. It's just like, whoosh.
Hey, you know what? Once this blast comes, these Imperials are gonna have to pick up our bodies. We might as well be naked and let them pick up our naked bodies, having sex with each other, and they'll have to pull things out of other things that they wouldn't want to.
They're gonna find penises in places they don't want to
In
find them
places,
for
yes.
months. They're
Oh,
gonna go penis everywhere, every nook and cranny.
they might be stopping the future with the South Park reference for my annual South Park reference. They took our jobs.
I was just thinking, like, with the explosion, like somewhere in space, there just be like a severed penis flying around, and it's like you cut to Han Solo flying, and it's just like, "Psh, what the hell? What's that on my
What the hell?
window?" Chewie,
And the
Chewie, do you know what that
windshield
is?
wipers just and it just starts making more of a mess because it starts ejaculating. It's been pumped up this whole time, and it sort of got frozen in space. And then once the windshield wipers just rubbed it, it just ejaculated all over his windshield. And then the space wipers just keep making more of a mess. They have to throw the liquid, like when you're washing the thing.
Chewie's just like, this is just like every Tuesday, Han. The fuck? Told me that
Yeah.
wouldn't happen on a Friday.
Or maybe it's like a giant like combined climax, right? There's a nuclear explosion and an actual metaphorical explosion where it all just connects with each other, and it just like it's like the Eye of Aldani, and instead of meteorites, it's like it's just jizz everywhere combined with like an explosion, and everything connects, and then everything just goes blank, and that's it. No more Andor. That's it. Andor finished.
was picturing
Rogue One was deceiving.
I was picturing the sperm kind of like creating a little bubble, like in Guardians of the Galaxy
Oh.
with Groot.
Yeah, like Groot. Yeah.
You know, everybody's just like, no. And
Yeah.
it just like happens that the temperature from the explosion and the just right at that moment crystallizes it. And then it's just like a little
Nemec wrote that in his book.
there's just like a cum bubble floating through space. And they're like,
Cum
someone's
bubble,
going to get
yeah.
us. Keep fucking.
Keep fucking. Keep climaxing.
Right? That bubble cat's
Shoot-
got to stay up.
Shoot your loads into the sky quick. I don't know how the gay couples go into that. Lesbian couples, sorry. I guess male gay couples will work. But I don't know what lesbian gay couples.
Don't discriminate. They could be squirting.
Well, I mean, it's not going to have the same sticky quality to
I
male.
feel like now you're
ejaculate.
discriminating.
Well, I'm not, dude. That's just biology. I'm not discriminating. That's not an opinion.
It's
a
a
fact.
hypothetical cum bubble that's protecting people. You don't know.
Oh, I thought it's more like physical, where in terms of like the jizz has the male ejaculate, sorry, has like sticky qualities, and it all just it's like well, you mentioned Groot and Guardians of the Galaxy. There's also another scene in Guardians of the Galaxy where all those spaceships come and they join together and form that force field. I was thinking more on those terms.
No, but what is it
Where
if
it's more
it's
like
like
a
there's
force
certain paints where like you gotta get two types, or like certain thinner or like polishes where like you get it in two parts, and only once you put them together, it's like
Right.
the product is finished. So what is if you need male and female
Oh.
ejaculate, and only then?
Okay.
Otherwise, we could make cum bubbles around ourselves all the time, right?
Well, I've been trying, but it hasn't worked out so far.
Yeah, because you don't have the female
Because
ejaculate.
of the thing. Oh, there you go. I was missing half of the equation.
There you go.
I had my math all wrong.
Like everything in life, it needs to be balanced.
Thanos was right.
Thanos was right.
Thanos was right. I definitely need to find a girl now. Now I definitely need to find a girl. I didn't earlier, but now I definitely do. Guys, leave it in the comments.
I hope we don't need to find new listeners after this 10-minute discussion of cum bubbles.
I think we lost all our audience, dude.
Hey, if you're still
Whatever.
here, leave
Yeah.
a comment. You
If
could be
you're
number one.
yeah.
It could be you. If you're still listening,
that number
let us
guy,
know.
that number one guy earlier left, I'm pretty sure. So you could be the new number one.
True. There might be an opening. You know?
That dude was like, I'm
probably
out.
deleted
I
his
supported
comment.
these guys through everything, but I'm out of this.
Like I had it, guys. I was all in until the cum came out.
Until you ejaculated metaphorically into my face, into all my hopes.
So yeah, lone listener,
So what were we?
let us know. Tweet at us.
Please subscribe
Yeah, please subscribe.
and
Let us
give
know.
give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast.
Yeah. And let us know if you should calm down the gist bubble
Yes.
talk. Otherwise,
If we should calm down the jizz, but what did you say?
calm down. Calm down.
Calm down. Calm down. Calm down. All right. Yeah, we'll calm it down.
No, like let us know. If not, if no one's
Let us
listening right
know.
now, it doesn't matter. And then once someone's listening, let us know.
Ooh. Dude, imagine in like 3 years if people actually start like listening to our earlier pods and be like, oh my God, this is what these guys used to be.
I'm thinking more like, what is if like most people sit here for like an hour or so, and then eventually they fall off. They never
Yeah.
knew that in hour 3
Yeah.
is where like the shit gets fucking
that's why we gotta have
popping up.
clips.
Yeah.
That's why we gotta have the clips for
I don't
this
know.
podcast.
I don't know if you want that clip.
I don't
out
know
there.
if we want to have a clip. I don't know what imagery you're gonna use for that.
Yeah.
It's gonna be your Star Wars porn parody imagery that you're gonna
Oh,
use. Oh my God, dude, that'll be amazing.
It goes from does sexuality matter in Star Wars to just like bubble question mark.
Force field? Ejaculate force field? Does ejaculate force field exist in Star Wars universe?
If you were to make a okay, let's just go for it. Let's
All
move
right,
on.
let's move on.
Otherwise, that one guy
we're-
listening is also
yes.
going to go.
Yeah, he's like, guys, come on.
Female audience is already plummeted all the way into the basement.
Oh, dude, that 2% is gonna go into like a negative 5%.
She's gonna unlisten the last episode.
Yeah,
that she
listen,
listened to.
exactly. Yes, exactly. Oh my God! All right, so Mon Mothma is now finally. This sounds it's the worst segue transition into. Oh God! Now back to our original scheduled programming, guys. So yeah, Mon Mothma is now chit-chatting with Tay, and they're talking about deposits. And this is I'm sorry that this is perfect timing, but I actually wrote that down in my notes. Okay, guys, this is not me trying to make a joke on what we were talking about. I literally wrote that down in my notes, where Tay and Mon talking about deposits and meeting Daco Sullivan. Those are literally my only notes on this scene, and it just happened to be at the perfect time.
It just means that's all we were
The
queuing
perfect
up for.
segue. The perfect segue.
That's all
The
we were
perfect
queuing
segue.
up for.
Yes, exactly.
I forgot that we were talking about her and him fucking. That's how we got there.
Yes.
I forgot who were we talking about at the beginning. It's been so long. It's like, oh yeah, shit. We had started
my
this discussion. All right, with her and him.
They're talking about financial deposits, okay, guys? Get your mind out of the gutter.
But yeah, in the scene, basically, like we heard here the guy that was mentioned last time between Forrest Whitaker and Luthen, and we
Oh no,
basically
that's a
find-
different person.
Isn't she also meeting somebody that was mentioned there?
No, the guy that
The one that
Luthen and Forrest.
there's the one that the Imperials have, the one that Forrest Whitaker was saying he's slow and
Yes.
lazy or like or some shit, you know, like
Yes.
implying like that's
Anton
probably why.
Krieger.
But okay, I don't know.
The guy that Tay and Mon Mothma are talking about is a different guy.
Okay, no, I didn't think it was the same guy, but I thought he was
he has
also
a different
mentioned.
name. Oh no, he
Alright.
wasn't mentioned earlier. I don't
Okay.
think so.
Okay.
Because it's the first time I've heard the name Daco Sullivan,
But
and she's like he's a thug. But yeah.
yeah, it's cool. They're bringing in like a little bit of the like it must be a mafiosi or something to have like enough money to like give her a loan.
Yeah,
Of-
shark. A loan shark,
Yeah, I guess.
or someone similar to Jabba the Hutt.
I just hope yeah, I hope it's something
Oh,
like that.
it'll be amazing where it's like an alien type creature,
Oh yeah, maybe he has 6 arms this time.
like yeah, maybe like a Jabba type creature, and he has to. It would be amazing to see a Jabba like creature in a setting like Mon Mothma's house, where everything is so chic and upper class, and you have this like thug slug type of a monster creature, just like squirm his way into her thing, leaving.
She's
like,
just like,
yeah.
I told you not the carpets. I told you don't step on the
yeah,
carpets.
yeah, exactly. And I was just gonna mention that he's gonna leave like dirty slug behind him, like a trail of dirty slug. And Mon Mothma's like, God, Tay, This is why I didn't want to bring him inside my house. Couldn't we like meet him somewhere else? Like, it wasn't like so that parent would see him. It's just like it's gonna be like a headache to clean it.
I will keep mentioning it throughout everything that we cover from Star Wars, and whenever Alderaan and like the Senate and all that shit is showing.
Okay.
When are we going to see that 50s diner that Obi-Wan went into and met his buddy Rex or whatever his fucking name was?
I don't think that's ever going to be. It would be hilarious if they try to sort of bring that in, because they brought in Coruscant and they sort of merged it in properly, where now it doesn't feel out of place. But that 50s diner, I think that's something that Tony Gilroy is like, I'm sorry, George Lucas, we've tried to pay as much respect to you as we could. We have to just forget about that. We have to forget about that and midi-chlorians. I think those are the two things, and the Jedi training, where kids are 4 feet away from themselves with fucking lightsabers.
It's like
I think those are a couple of things that they're just not gonna touch at all.
The 50s diner is on the same level as Cyril's mom being Jewish, where it's just like that's like gives so many like brings up so many questions. Like, how do they have the style from the 50s on Earth that hasn't even happened yet? Because it's a long time ago. They just happen to be like into the same style. Like,
no, it's just George Lucas not being smart. I think that was the only problem with that. Where I don't think he understood his own creation.
They need to bring it back, and they just need to do something really dope in it. Kind of like there was a diner episode in The Sandman. Just do an episode like that in that diner, and everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, bro, that 50s diner."
I just thought of a cool way to introduce that setting. What if Cyril gets fired because of his inappropriate advances, and he gets a job as a waiter at the diner, and you see that the Greedo or whatever I forgot his name, the main guy, he's like, "Hey, come over here, come clean these plates up," and you see, oh my god, it's Cyril. Holy shit, that's what happened to him. He's a waiter now. His life is like spiraling downwards. And I think that would be the best way to introduce
and him and Dedra have sex in the bathroom.
Of the diner?
Yeah. Dirty, weird, awkward sex in the bathroom. Because she's like, "I know you got fired, but I can't stop thinking about you." And he's like, "Let me put the mop away." He's like cleaning up the shit from the toilet. And he's like,
she's like,
really?
She's like a masochist or like a sadist, where she got him fired because like seeing someone else in pain actually is like a sexual arousal for her, which is what serial killers are really known for.
Serial killers?
Serial killers? Cyril eating cereal, cornflakes, becoming a serial killer. Oh my god, we're going full on Dr. Seuss with this now. Oh man. That would be amazing. I hope season 2 is just that.
Yeah, right. Just
we're done with everything, and yeah, it's just puns, visual puns, where she just gets like this sexual gratification from causing pain to someone else, which is an actual thing. That's not me making up anything. Like that's an actual serial killer. Sadist.
It's like you're trying to be grown up Star Wars. Like, come on, either you go full grown up or not. You never go half grown up.
Yeah, you never go half regal, as Tony Stark said in Tropic Thunder.
That's like
you never go full regal. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I was riffing on. I was like,
sorry,
gotta be careful with that one.
I was very careful about that. I thought of it 40 times in my head before saying it. I didn't even mention Rise. It's a Tony Stark. It's not. I can't even call him Robert Downey Jr. Well, yeah. And where were we at? So that whole talk about Mon, Mothma, and Tay, and it brought up the question of how far will now Mon Mothma twist her morals to now, if she has to meet with a corrupt thug, how far will she go to achieve her goals for the good, And now we get to our ISB meeting where what's her name? About the pilot that they've captured, and it's apparently a pilot who was on his way to meet Anton Krieger. And they're sort of just discussing like, hey, we don't want Krieger to be spooked. So Dedra comes up with a cool plan of just like that they're gonna stage a sort of a malfunction in the cockpit. And it kind of reminded me of what happened at Kanari. Maybe it was a staged Imperial attack rather than an actual toxic problem that happened there. But yeah, so Dedra comes up with this plan, and they sort of mention that the pilot was talking about a raid at Spellhouse. So I think that might be something we might see later. And yeah. And then we get back to the assembly line again, and Olaf again isn't feeling all that well. And we see from the corner of the frame a team actually getting zapped. That was like, oh my god, like they have to watch that every fucking shift where anyone who comes out just gets zapped. And it's like, you feel good about winning, but at the same time you're like, it's at the expense of these people, you know? So it was kind of, it's like you said, the way they visually tell all these things, the impact of it is so much greater. Where with Clem hanging, just like seeing his feet, and with the lights going off, and now just seeing it in the background of like, because we've heard about it, Circus has mentioned it, but now seeing how all the people feel like they're finished and they're, oh my god, we did it, we came number one, we didn't lose, and then it's like, well, somebody did have to lose, and someone has to pay the price for that. So yeah, it's and now we get to a very, 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 very emotional, depressing scene. And you want to take over for that?
Are we at the final scene now?
Yes.
Where Uli, finally, they're carrying him, and they're trying to hide the fact that he's sick. But then they're in that line again where they always talk. This time on the other side, which was kind of interesting. But yeah, he finally collapses. And then we have Andy Serkis step in. And finally, he calls a doctor. It's like, you know what? Maybe you kind of looking like you could use a doctor now. Not like what has been 4 days of you having a stroke. I think, let me call one now. And then, yes, finally they show a doctor come in barefoot, which shows that, like, even with doctors, they were not paying doctors either. They just imprison these guys too. And he comes in and he checks on Uli, while Andor and Andy Serkis are just holding him, and Andy Serkis is like, Uli, don't leave me, and all that.
It's the first time we see him become emotional and sympathetic and compassionate.
Yeah, and then for the best character out of all. Amazing.
Yes.
But the doctor comes in and he's very, like, first of all, very methodical with it at first, but then he just like he's not even talking about a human. He just says, I need a bag and a trolley. And
he also says, I don't want to know his name.
Yeah, and I don't want to know his name. And he's like, what else is interesting? He says, like, Andy Serkis is like, what are you going to do? And he's like, there's nothing I can do for him. There's nothing I can do for anybody. But like with him specifically, he's like, he had a massive stroke. And then then suddenly the big revelation comes of the doctor saying, Uli has it actually, he's lucky. He's at least getting out peacefully. Not like, not the same thing I can say for anybody else in here. And that's the moment where Andy Serkis is like, what do you mean? And the doctor still doesn't really want to say. He's just like, get your guy in line, keep your men in line, which is also was interesting that Andy Serkis is like, the hell did you just say to me? But eventually the doctor finally calls again for the bag, and the officer that has been watching over them takes 2 steps outside the room, which I think doesn't make that much of a difference. But finally the doctor is like, all right, man, fuck shit. If you really want to fucking find out, man, damn, you pressured me so hard. But okay, guess what? So, like, some shit happened and they fucked up on level 2. That someone got fired from level 4, and the next day
And he was
showed up
back, yeah.
On level 2, and they found out, and everybody freaked the fuck out and started rioting, and they decided to just fry them all. And he also
Right.
says specifically, Uli has it better than we will in a week, within a week. So something big is like something's shifting, and it wasn't really clear as this has been. It's what Mulchi was saying last episode, where he's just like, don't look at the number. It doesn't matter. You're not
Right.
coming out of here. None of us will ever get out of here. Anyway, so it's like, how long has it been happening? It seems like the fake long sentences and them keeping them inside and running a prison labor camp, basically. It seemed like it wasn't just new. I feel like it was happening before. Like Andor just stumbled into something that was already happening. Well, like, I thought it was because of Aldani, but I think because of Aldani, it's getting worse.
Right.
But
It's something you mentioned that. Sorry, you want to continue or something?
oh well, like just to finish the scene so you can discuss it. Like the doctor mentions the thing about level 2, and Andy Serkis finally has a switch in his face. He realizes what the hell is going on. Andor notices it, and the doctor gives Uli a lethal injection, where he says he won't feel anything, but Uli is all like, like he's like looking like in fucking pain. I was like, bro, are you sure? I think no one has ever told you they're feeling anything because they're not able to. I don't think that actually means they're not feeling anything. He's like,
this isn't a Jack Kevorkian situation.
Yeah, he's like, what he meant is, I'm not going to feel anything. Don't worry about it.
Right.
It's going to be over in a second. But yeah, so then finally the Andor and Andy Serkis walk away. And the question that Andor has been asking 2-3 times the entire episode: how many floors are? How many officers are? How many guards on every floor? How many guards on every floor? And Andy Serkis the whole time did not budge, did not say anything. That's when he turned around and like shut the light off and just told him like, we're not talking about this. And then finally, Andy Serkis goes, never more than 12.
12. Never more than 12. Boom, boom, boom. I was like, damn.
So like,
I wrote in my notes, Serkis finally answers the question, and then I put, the plan is on.
Yeah, it's like the same with the heist. It's like,
I'm like, all right, I'm hyped.
If Andy's in, I'm in. Fuck them.
I'm in with Andy.
For Uli.
Before Uli. There we go.
And then credits. So yeah, that's the full scene.
Yeah. Just a small few things I wanted to mention. You mentioned that it seems like Andor sort of just stumbled into something that had already been going on. That's clearly been the central theme of this entire show, where all these grander things are happening and Andor, along with us, have just stumbled into it, and we're getting to know everything that's happening around in the world through him just being a part of it, rather than being the central figure of it. And then two things I noticed was that, first of all, the Doctor's in the same sort of position as Andy Serkis, where he's the Doctor, Andy Serkis is the floor manager. So the way they interact with each other is exactly how Andy Serkis would be interacting with other inmates. But this is the episode where Andy Serkis is breaking, and he sees who his who someone in his position is like, but just a different position. And you see the difference in what Andy Serkis used to be like, how his demeanor used to be like. It used to be like this Doctor's, and now both of them are actually scared. Where first they were scared, but they could hide their fear and go on with their things to just get out of for their shifts. And now when the realization hit that, oh, they're just recycling inmates, in a way where it's like, oh, you get out of this, but now you're recycled back into something else, and no one has any communication, so you don't get to know. And also a small little emotional thing that I noticed was that, if you really notice, Olaf being the clear elder statesman, the oldest of them all, the next older one was maybe one of the guys in the assembly line, and Andy Serkis. So can you imagine the relationship Andy Serkis had built with Olaf through all those shifts of assembly line? Because he's part of his team. So imagine the amount of shifts and years where he saw Olaf every day. And it's like, even though he was like in charge, you see how Andy Serkis is with the inmates when they're not in the assembly line. So I'm sure he must have had some kind of a bond with Olaf as being like the two old guys who have been here forever. And now
Yeah.
it's like Andy Serkis's only emotional connection to this is gone. And it's sort of a trigger into his realization along with everything else that's going on. And together it all accumulates and makes him snap and is like, you know what? I'm into the rebellion. Fuck the Empire.
Yeah, it's amazing that it took Uli. That's why he says
Yeah.
Uli also, like just to like really hammer
Exactly.
it down. Like it was clear, but it's just like,
Yes.
no, that was his boy.
Exactly. Otherwise, he really wouldn't care that much.
If you think about it,
We saw a guy committing suicide within their thing, and he didn't like make a big deal about
but
it.
think about it. Every time there's something, this episode, something with Uli happens, you see Andy Serkis looking, and he never says anything
Yeah.
about it. The most is when he's like, "Oh, whose idea was the switch?" And Andor's like, "Oh, it was him," and he's like, "Good call." You know, like
Right.
you could tell that like he was never a dick to these guys.
Right. That's the difference, the contrast between Andy Serkis is just doing his job for the Empire, but he still has empathy towards the rebels or the people from the other class. Whereas there are people like the prefect who are also, and Dedra, who are also just doing their job, but they don't, they lack that human element to them, where they're able to actually connect and bond with another human and feel for them. Where Andy Serkis, even though he has to do this for himself, but he still has that tiny little soft spot in his heart for someone like Olaf and other people, where he doesn't want to see anyone get zapped, but someone has to, and he's just like, hey man, I'm just trying to do my job so I can get the hell out of here, you know? And I can't care about you people. But then when it really comes down to it, when he's met with the one person he actually cared about, and he's like, oh shit, like like you see him that whole facade of being a hard in charge guy and not being caring towards other people just completely break. And yeah, cut to credits.
Yeah, and that's episode
Plan is on.
9.
Episode 9.
Oof,
And
cannot.
quick note on some of the music. This was the first time where it happened, where once the episode cuts, the music's like super hyped and like drums, like, you know, like that, like that, where you're like, oh shit, the plan is on, and oh my god, blah blah blah. And it's going like that while it's showing like written by, directed by, created by, executive producer. And then when it goes into the actors cast, the music completely changes into piano and a super soft emotional music that they haven't had in any of the episodes. Every episode, even though episode 3 and stuff had emotional music in it, it still had a score to it. Where this ends with a score, and then within the post credits, it immediately transitions into a really soft, super emotional piano. And it just
Interesting.
goes like that throughout the end,
Yeah,
where it's like, yeah.
I didn't catch that. That's an interesting observation. Like I
Yeah.
hope it ended with for Uli.
That's what I was gonna say. That it's clear where it's like this was like the first super emotional scene where it's even though like episode 3 end was him leaving Marva, episode 7 him leaving Marva, or very emotional. This was like almost like a tribute to Uli.
Yeah, it's my boy Blue.
Yeah, my boy Blue. They're gonna
But-
do it for him, man. I can't wait.
But there you
yeah,
go. Episode 9.
There you go.
Nobody's
Episode 9,
listening.
guys. Nobody's listening.
But
With an
yeah,
exclamation mark?
important. But
It's
yeah,
not like top of the muffin to you.
any final thoughts for the episode?
Nah, man. I think we discussed every single thing in detail. I'm hyped. I'm glad that this episode was 46 minutes long, and the episode 8 was 53 minutes long. So I'm glad they scaled it back. I don't want it to become a 53, 55-minute episode. um I want it to stay within the range of 40 to 45 max. I think it keeps everything concise, and it keeps the pacing way better than anything else.
Right, I could see that.
Yeah.
Me personally,
Yeah.
like for the climax episode specifically of these three arcs that we've had, I don't
Right.
mind them being longer. But I
Yeah.
totally I can see for these ones where it's the setup, you can cut down things here and there. Where like I feel like this episode, there were like maybe 2-3 scenes where just like, okay, it was already clear. Like you're just further highlighting what we've already learned from this scene. Where like you were
Right.
saying last episode, you felt like there was things to be cut. I actually felt like there more this episode where it's just like not like it
Yeah.
needed to be cut, but I could see that just being more like, okay, that's specifically if you're trying to be super efficient with it, maybe wasn't needed 100%. But
Right.
in the end, I'm still okay at this point. It still has earned its runtime for in my eyes for me.
Yeah. I agree with that.
But yeah, super excited for next week. I've said it already last
thing
week.
that you sorry. My bad.
But yeah, no, I was just
I was
saying.
gonna talk about the runtime and stuff.
Oh yeah, well, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, like, even though like you said, there were scenes in this thing where it could have been shortened a little bit, but I didn't think of it that way just because it was such an improvement from the previous episode, where I really like noticed it in the previous episode where I was like, some things can definitely, not that you have to even cut out lines or dialogue. I just feel a lot of the scenes could have just been reduced just a tiny bit. And even in this, you could have done that, but it's enough where it doesn't make you feel like it's becoming a tiny bit too tedious. But like you said, it's earned its runtime. And one quick mention I wanted to make was that before you want to say something first?
I feel like I can see right through you. The last episode was
what the
the
hell?
only episode where you were kind of down on it. And what
Yeah.
is the difference between last episode and every single other episode so far? What is the thing that made you stop and be like, maybe we can cut this so we can put more of this other thing that I like? It was last week was the only episode where Cyril didn't show up. And now you're sitting here, and the second they give you Cyril, you're like, no, don't cut any of this. Just make it longer. I need all Cyril all day. I can see
I
right
need a
through you.
spin-off of Andor.
Now-
I need an Andor spin-off.
We'll see. Next time there's an episode without Cyril and shit. Let's see how you come back. I'll keep an eye on that.
Oh my god, dude, you read me like a book.
Yeah, man. Telling you.
No, man. That's totally not true, okay?
You'll see.
I'm not in love with Cyril or his or the scenes with him. But yeah. One thing I actually wanted to mention was that I noticed this, that I never even thought of it, that all these kind of shows where they don't have like earlier we used to get the shows where you have a specific runtime where it's either an hour-long episode or a 30-minute episode or a 21-minute episode, right? The stuff that used to come on TV. Now, because we have the freedom of the streaming services, I really, I'm so happy that the writers have freedom to work with, okay, this episode needs to be longer, so it can be 53 minutes long, even though the first episode was 36 minutes long. Like the fact that it's like, okay, this episode needs to be, this is the stuff we want to show in this episode, and it's going to be this. It's not like, oh, we're restrained to 30 minutes, so now we have to condense everything to 30. Or, oh my God, we have to fill in 50 minutes, even though there are some episodes that can do 50 minutes. There are some episodes that don't need to be 50, but we have to fill it in. I really love that now people have the creative people have the freedom to just be like, they can just tell the story in the way they want to tell, regardless of how long or how short it needs to be. Like the time length isn't a constraint on them. Sometimes it works because sometimes you need to reel artists and creative people in, but I also like them having the freedom of deciding where, hey, this needs to be this and this needs to be this long, this doesn't need to be this long, and they can play around with it where and I think this is a show where it works perfectly, where some episodes are a little shorter, some episodes are a little longer, and I think uh, it fills those roles perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm
Well, that's
excited
it.
for next week. They're giving me what I wanted
Yes.
last week, a prison heist. We've gotten
Mm-hmm.
the breakout from the first planet. We've had a normal heist. Now we have a prison break, and amazing. I love it. I love all
You
these
think
ideas.
someone's gonna have a blueprint somewhere?
A what?
A blueprint somewhere, like Prison Break? Like that guy has the blueprint on his body.
Edged
You
on
think
Andy
there's gonna be a
Serkis's
revelation?
ass.
Andy Serkis Andy Serkis is gonna take his wig
Oh,
off and
yeah,
be like,
exactly.
I got
The
I've been
codes have
hiding
been
it
here
under
all
this.
along.
It's like, yes, you address the shaving, now address Andy Serkis's hair. There was a purpose all along.
But yeah, so
I'm super excited and hyped
yeah,
about the next episode.
I think those are the overall thoughts on the episode. I think we're both
Yes.
excited. We both still love the show. We both think everybody should be watching this.
Yes.
But yeah, let's see what happens next Wednesday for episode 10. Only 3 left. This is going to be the last finale
Wow.
before the actual finale of the arc finale. Super
I'm actually
excited.
kind of sad.
They're always my favorite episodes so far. It's always been the climax has been incredible.
Of course.
Even though everything else has been incredible. So yes, that's Andor. Love it. Great job.
Love it.
Yeah, everybody all around love it. But
Nobody's listening.
is that
I
hope
I hope someone's listening to our podcast.
I didn't I made a note of it and I deleted it because I was like, that's such a downer thought. But I was like, nobody's listening, which is kind of like metaphorical for this podcast.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking that too.
Specifically for this
I
moment.
was like,
Nobody's listening. Nobody's listening.
Come on, somebody listen to us.
Yeah, if anybody is listening right now, specifically, write pumpkin pie on Twitter, on comments, anywhere you can find us,
Anywhere.
wherever you want to reach out to us.
Email
write
us.
pumpkin pie. I will know exactly what you're talking about, and I will make sure to call you out and give you a shout out and reply to you and let you know that you're a real one because you were here when
Yes.
nobody else was. When we're sitting here saying nobody's listening, you came and you wrote pumpkin pie. But yeah,
Yes, I totally agree on that. Please do that.
I think like we should just call this episode of the podcast "Nobody's Listening."
Nobody. I know. I was just gonna say, like, it becomes so meta. Even though cornflakes is so great,
Yeah,
nobody's listening is just like. I guess you can put cornflakes as a clip, but nobody's listening is so perfectly titled for everything that's going on.
we gotta do it.
We have to do it.
But
We have
yes,
to do it. I guess it works. Yeah.
all right, yeah, the metaphorical episode 9 that stands for
Yes.
everything we do and we love to do.
The
Until-
metaphorical, because we're being meta with the title. Nobody's listening to our podcast either.
What is meta versus meta? Meta.
No, like there's metaphor, and then there's we're being meta with the metaphor.
Isn't that okay? Anyways,
Is that how the term runs along?
I don't know. We're not
Leave
gonna get
comments.
into Shabz. Take us out. We're gonna see everybody next week. Let them know what to do in the
Yes.
meantime, and we out of here.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification on YouTube. Check us out on YouTube. We got clips. We got edited clips, shorts. If you're watching this on YouTube, please go check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Please leave us a 5-star review if you can. That really helps us out. Leave us any kind of comment you want, but just leave comments. We're definitely there to engage and improve and listen to your feedback. And Amazon Music, iTunes, and check out our link tree. Check out our socials. You can get in touch with us anywhere, and keep tuning in, guys. We hope you stick around.